mischief. It raided Medicare, but it also introduced price controls that is hurting American innovation.
Yeah, is anyone here seeing less inflation because of Inflation Reduction Act? Did you see your prices go down, paying less for drugs and groceries? Everything worked just like Biden said. We call it the Inflation Acceleration Act. This is one of the most absurd, misnamed laws. And
see ahead for knowing things.
What they did that was so outrageous is they put these price controls on prescription drugs. And price controls are always a bad idea because when you put a price control on something, you create shortages. You get less of what you're price controlling. Everyone who lived through the 70s knows what happened. We put price controls on gasoline, you had long lines. You put price controls on medicines, you don't necessarily have shortages of the ones that already exist, but you get fewer new ones.
Right.
You don't get new ones developed if there's a price control on them. And the craziest thing about Inflation Reduction Act is they used price controls to reduce the amount that Medicare spends on prescription drugs by over $200 billion. But they didn't use that money to shore up Medicare. They didn't use that money to send it to seniors in the form of rebates or lower prices or lower premiums. They used that money for giveaways to wind and solar guys and electric vehicles, all this unrelated left-wing spending. And so that bill is completely outrageous. Let me just finish my...
All right, go ahead.
And inside the price controls, this is even the craziest part, inside the price controls, they have more draconian price controls on pills than they have on injections.
Yeah.
So they actually created an incentive within it for every new drug that is developed now is going to be an injection because injections have a 13-year protection from price controls. Pills only have 9.
There you go.
Now, every person I know would rather take a pill than stick themselves with a needle. So this is one of the dumbest political things ever. So I'm hoping that Republicans, they should repeal every word of the Inflation Reduction Act in my opinion. Do people agree with that, every single word?
Yes.
We should repeal every single spending bill that Joe Biden passed, and just say $5 trillion by the IRA. What was the Build Back Better? All of these things, erase them, get rid of them, Mr. President.
To put a price number,
but if they can't at least get rid of that penalty on pills,
yeah, we're talking about that. Yeah.
That would be pathetic.
Yes.
That's like the absolute minimum.
But to put a price tag on the rating of Medicare, I mean, we're already talking about the issue of Medicare, which is strapped for cash. We can sort of debate that. But to raid Medicare for $250 billion to pay for the Green New Deal, and they admitted it, right? The Inflation Reduction Act was nothing more than the Green New Deal. Something has to be done. I know we're going to talk a little bit about the EPIC Act.
You know, the funny thing is, during the debacle debate, when former President Biden said, we killed Medicare, that wasn't a slip. They actually raided Medicare. And again, they have the hubris to accuse others of wanting to raid Medicare. Real quick, guys, talk about the pill penalty. So,
I referred to this a little bit, but the way they wrote these price controls, pills can be subject to price controls after 9 years. Injections can't be subject to them for 13 years. So you have this 4-year difference. So what we're basically telling all the pharmaceutical companies is put your investments into injections because you're not going to get whacked for price controls.
And there's a fix here, right? There's a fix here.
There's an easy fix. A congressman from North Carolina named Greg Murphy has a bill that just changes the 9 years from pills to 13. So as I said, absolute minimum that they should be able to do is that. I want them to be more ambitious. I'd like to see the whole scheme gone, but absolute minimum is that, because how do Democrats vote against that? Yeah. They're going to go home and tell their voters, no, we want you to have to inject yourself with every new drug that comes out.
So think about this. We have Europe and other parts of the world freeloading on American innovation. We have politicians in the U.S. enacting laws that introduce innovation-killing price controls. We want to bring who here thinks they pay the right amount for health care? Well, right? Yeah. We want to bring the costs down, and there's ways to do that. One thing is PBM reform. Yeah. So all you guys, start here, Andrew, PBM reform.
So let me just gin off of the issue of the price controls and the importation issue.
Go.
Because it is parallel to what we've been asking in terms of foreign policy generally, right? As we are asking other nations in NATO to pay their fair share for, so that America doesn't foot the bill for global security, we need to be doing the same thing with regards to healthcare, especially with the amount of innovation we're doing. Now, the issue of PBMs is an important one. And what's amazing
what's a PBM?
That's a pharmacy benefit manager. It's essentially a middleman between the drug companies and the consumers in terms of setting prices. And it's an area, weirdly enough, in which Democrats and Republicans can agree that something needs to be done. And yet, nothing has been getting done. I know Phil could speak to that issue. We need to get it done now. We've had opportunities.
I grew up in the Bronx and in Irish Italian neighborhoods, and there was always a guy walking around the neighborhood who would go and visit the stores and such. That's the PBM?
Well, the PBMs now are actually all owned by the big insurance companies.
Yes.
So they're not really a separate company. It gets a little bit confusing, but basically, normally, I love middlemen. I'm not one of these middlemen are horrible guys. I think that usually they're market makers. They reduce friction. So I try to be safe. But
I'm against middlemen.
In this case, it's actually they exploit a loophole in federal law. They have an exemption from the federal anti-kickback statute. I don't know why or how they got this exemption, but in any other federal program, you couldn't do what they do. And this is what they do in Medicare Part D. When they're negotiating prices, the insurance company's PBM division, when they're negotiating prices with the drug makers, they don't go in and say, hey, we have huge buying power. We have 10,000 pharmacies. We want lower prices on all these drugs. Instead, because if they did that, they'd have to pass on the lower prices.
Right.
Because there are caps on the copays. Okay, what they do is they say, we actually want a really high price, and we can base the copay at the counter on that really high price, but then give us a huge rebate, and we can pocket the rebate, because we're exempt from the federal anti-kickback statute that in any other federal spending program would make that illegal. So Trump tried to end this. He actually, in his first term, they did a regulation from HHS that prohibited pocketing those rebates, said any rebate has to be passed on to seniors at the point of sale in Medicare Part D. And in the Inflation Reduction Act, they delayed the effective date of that Trump rule until 2032.
So let me put a fine point on this. Again, an issue in which voters, consumers agree is a bad thing, in which Democrats agree, many Democrats agree is a bad thing, in which President Trump has said is a bad thing. Many Republicans and Congress folks on this stage last year said, this is a bad thing. It hurts average, everyday.
ट्रेडमिल पे जिस स्पीड से आपके पैर चल रहे हैं ना, उससे कहीं ज्यादा स्पीड से आपकी उंगलियां चल रही हैं।
अरे ये तो मैं हमारे फिट फैट फूडी कैफे का मेन्यू डिसाइड कर रहा हूँ।
तो कब लॉन्च कर रहे हैं वो अपना ये फिट फैट फूडी?
मैं तो आज कर दूं, लेकिन खुद के वेंचर के लिए ना सिर्फ ये मसल नहीं, फाइनेंशियल मसल चाहिए।
एक्चुअली आपको एक प्लान चाहिए,
एक और डाइट प्लान, वो नहीं हो है
सेविंग्स प्लान।
अरे इतनी एक्सरसाइज करके मुझे कुछ हो गया तो
कुछ नहीं हो रहा आपको, वरना उसके लिए भी प्लान है, टर्म प्लान। आपका फिट फैट फूडी बिना फाइनेंशियल हिकअप्स के चलता रहेगा। पहले आप थोड़ा दौड़ो।
अरे वाह छोटे, तेरे पास तो हर चीज का परफेक्ट प्लान है।
मेरे पास नहीं, कैनेडा HSBC लाइफ इंश्योरेंस के पास है प्रॉमिसेस का परफेक्ट प्लान।
सुन, मेन्यू फाइनल करने से पहले फूड टेस्टिंग करेंगे, राइट?
आप दौड़ो।
मैं पानी पी गया।
कैनेडा HSBC लाइफ इंश्योरेंस, प्रॉमिसेस का पार्टनर।
My guest today is Biraj Bahel, founder of Weeba.
70-hour work week is a batshit crazy idea. I was teaching a batch of 15 of these are called taste consultants, teaching them, and I was saying, ye chipotle, and suddenly, sir, gali mat do. I got a 70,000 kg order from Domino's. Wow. I remember feeling, ye company ab band nahi hogi.
If you could preserve one moment in a jar.
I was cheesy enough to take a picture with the first full page ad on the front page of Times of India with SRK. I have a picture in my night suit because I woke up early in the morning at 6 o'clock to that picture. I think I'll never forget that.
Why RFK Jr. is going to be one of the great HHS secretaries ever. But can we all agree, everyone in this room, that never, never, never again will shut down our schools. Never again should they shut down our government. Never should they shut down our churches. What they did was so terrible for our health, and we will never let the government do it. It was the greatest abuse of power ever. I want to make one point about the drugs, because this is so important. Folks, we are on the cusp of so many incredible breakthroughs in medicine. In everyone's, unless you're over the age of 9. By the way, I'm 65. I'm so excited to learn that I'm going to be able to get Social Security for the next 65 years of my life, right? But we can...
65, you're living young. We know 150.
Exactly. Yeah. So look, we are going to have cures soon for cancer, for epilepsy, for multiple
Alzheimer's.
sclerosis, for all of these horrible diseases. The fundamental problem with these price controls, be very clear about this. When they impose price controls, it delays the introduction of these new lives. So in other words, price controls on drugs kill people, and we got to get rid of them.
I want you guys to comment on this. So other nations have an industry or that is innate to that nation, and they promote it. America has the greatest innovators in the world in human history.
Yes.
Yet many politicians beat up on the innovators. Talk about how there are solutions. Everyone here is probably very frustrated that politicians talk a big game, but there is legislation to fix the PBM problem. There is disruptors in place now with RFK Jr. and the others you mentioned. The fact of the matter is solutions are real. And what I like is Donald Trump says to his staff every day, how many days left? So there's not much time. Go ahead.
I think that the Republican Party and the conservative movement have suffered from a lack of ambition. And I think that Trump and Elon Musk, people like what Doge is doing, let them loose on our healthcare bureaucracies, let them, bring some badly needed efficiencies. I think that, look, people by and large, voters, not just on the right, but everyone, they hate big pharma, but they also hate big insurance, and they also hate big hospital systems, and they also hate big government.
Yep.
We hate everything involved in healthcare except probably your own doctor. And one of the problems that we have is that everything that's happened in the last 20 years in healthcare has pushed towards bigger, more bureaucracy, more consolidation. We have a situation now in Medicare. This is so crazy. We have a situation in Medicare where if you go to your physician's office and they're an independent physician and they're not part of a hospital system, they have to bill Medicare a lower amount than if you go to the exact same office and they're part of a hospital system.
Right.
And so all the physicians' offices are getting bought up by the hospital systems because we'll pay them more. That is an insane incentive because now they're part of some huge bureaucratized system that is generally inefficient, and they are less able to exercise their own medical judgment. So what I've been telling people, and I think we have the right team in place to do this, is be willing to blow everything up. Be willing to get a real functional market in healthcare that's free of all these bureaucracies, government.
Well, and that's why these disruptors are so important. And look, before you say, I want to get to the EPIC Act because that's the solution. But Langer, go ahead.
Let me just add to this because it goes beyond obviously the pharmaceutical side of it, the drug side of it. But again, if you are changing the way we reimburse doctors for their time, what you're going to do is like everything else with price controls, you're going to get fewer of them. We should have been for the last decade doing whatever we can to produce more medical care, more doctors, more nurses, and more physicians' assistants. We are facing a massive gap between the number of physicians that we have and the number of patients who are going to need them. This is the coming crisis in medical care. We need to be starting today with fixing that.
So another point. And something that Trump did in his first term that's highly underappreciated and something we have to expand on in his second term, and I think all of you would agree with me, everyone should have the right to try these drugs. So in other words, if they have a new cancer drug or a new drug for heart disease, right now, the government holds these up by 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 years. And Milton Friedman used to say, this is a perfect example of how regulation kills people. They say, oh, look at how, these drug approval processes. And they say, oh, there's a new drug that's going to save 50,000 lives a year. If the government, as Milton Friedman would say, if the government holds that up for 3 years, guess what? The government just killed 150,000 people. Right. So everybody in this country should have the right to try experimental drugs. How many are with me on that?
Hey guys, we're getting to the warning.
There's another side of that coin though, which is no mandates ever.
Yes.
It's your decision. No mandates ever.
All right, guys. I think we all agree when we follow politics, patience, innovation get hurt. There's no reason why the Republican Party or the conservative movement shouldn't be the party and the movement of science and solutions. But we're short on time. Real quick, one solution, the EPIC Act. Tell me about the EPIC Act.
This is a one-page bill that just fixes that pill penalty that we were talking about.
Very good. I want to say,
it's pretty rare to have a one-page bill. I'd like to see more one-page bills in Congress. This is a one-page bill. It's written by a congressman named Greg Murphy, and it just says the price controls are not stricter anymore for pills than they are for injections.
All right.
But that's all right.
So
I have a one-sentence bill that would solve all these problems. Government is the worst medicine.
Here, here. Here, here.
All right, so wrapping things up in less than a minute. It's like being on the radio and I'm looking at the clock.
Yeah, looking at the clock.
How can we be more pro-science, more pro-patient? The right medicine, the right therapy to the right patient, the right time at the right price.
Well, I think this is the challenge to the new team that's coming in with RFK and Marty McCary and Jay Bhattacharya. And I think we've got a lot of people who have been very committed to science. And you got to do it by don't tell us, show us.
Yes.
Publish the results. Prove it. Don't expect us to take your word for it.
Steve?
I'm going to go back to what I said at the very outset.
No, we're up on a
We
break.
have a lot of seniors in this room, a lot of people in their 50s. We're going to make a pact today that we're going to get, everybody's going to get out of AARP and we're going to join AMAC. Okay.
Here, here.
That's the way
And no
to
more
stop
freeloading. No more freeloading from other countries on our innovation.
Hey, we are in a good place in this country. We should be hopeful and understand that innovation and science is on.
And how cool is this, by the way, that today you're going to see the two most popular leaders in the world, Javier Milei and Donald J.
Here,
Trump.
here.
I mean, how about that for a
Thank you very much.
Thank you all very
Thank you
much.
very much.
During my second term, we will fight for Alaska like never before.
I'm excited about what we can do with President Trump in the office.
We'll work together to provide affordable energy to Alaska and allies all over the world.
More investment, more certainty, production, more exploration.
Thank you to everyone in Alaska, and thank you to your great governor. I look forward to a long and enduring future relationship. Drill, baby, drill.
Welcome to CPAC. At Great American Media, we celebrate what matters most: faith, family, and country. Today, we invite you to experience storytelling that uplifts, inspires, and reflects the values we all cherish. PureFlix is your home for entertainment without compromise. With faith-driven movies and series, we bring you stories that strengthen hearts, uplift spirits, and honor what truly matters. And on Great American Family, where faith leads, where stories inspire. Welcome home. Whether it's Christmas all year long, heartfelt romances, or movies that bring families together, we are here to make you feel at home. At Great American Media, our foundation is quality. Our promise is to always deliver entertainment that aligns with your faith and values. Thank you for standing with us as we stand for faith, family, and country. Enjoy CPAC. And remember, when you choose Great American Media, you choose entertainment that lifts you up. Join us and experience the best in faith and family entertainment.
America is under attack. Our families are being crushed under the politics of a radical agenda. But moms have had enough. We are standing up and we are fighting back.
This is our battle. This battle is every bit as important as a Revolutionary War because we fight for the same thing.
Moms for America is a national movement of moms reclaiming our culture for truth, family, freedom, and the Constitution.
I think Moms for America is exactly on track and is doing the right thing for the future of our country and our children.
Like Moms for America is going at the heart of the issue.
I want to go on the record and say I'm for moms, I'm for America, and I'm especially for Moms for America.
But I am honored to join Moms for America today as we speak out against the horrific mandates.
With a national network of over 500,000 mothers, Moms for America is one of the fastest growing movements of women in the country.
The most dangerous place in all of nature is between a mama bear and her baby cub.
We are the change. No matter what, no matter where, and no matter how difficult the obstacles are that are facing us and our families, we will not give up and we will not give in.
So if not now, then when? If not you, then who?
Welcome to the Homeland Revolution.
The Freedom Foundation is not your average think tank. The Freedom Foundation is a battle tank. Our job is to defend the rights of public employees against the nation's biggest bullies, government unions. Government unions are the largest single funder of the radical left in America. The Freedom Foundation is here to stop all that by helping hundreds of thousands of public employees to leave their unions throughout the country. We're liberating people to put their money back in their pockets, now that the union's woke political agenda. This is how we take back America.
Hey, it's Matt Schlapp with CPAC. You know, we've had a huge problem in this country with election fraud. But at CPAC, that's not a problem. Our only problem is getting each and every one of you to vote. You have a number on that badge, and get your phone out and vote on all the issues that matter. And my guess is you probably like what Trump's doing as well. And we'll have the results for you very soon.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's Trump's world now. Please welcome co-founder Unplugged, Eric Prince, and CPAC board member Gordon Chang.
Good morning, Patriots! All of you are good people. And don't let anybody tell you otherwise. Because when they run you down, they take away your freedom. And freedom is the basis of our constitutional republic. And we've got a defender of freedom right here. Eric, I am so proud to be here today with you.
Glad to be here, Gordon.
Eric, we got problems all over the world. There are wars, there are disturbances, there are conflicts, but let's start at our southern border. This week, the State Department designated 8 Latin American cartels as foreign terrorist organizations. 6 of them are Mexican. So those 6, primarily 2 of them, control our southern border. What do these designations mean?
Well, it certainly unlocks a lot of tools that can be used against these cartels. They have plagued the Mexican society for decades. I feel terrible for a Mexican policeman who, within days of coming on a job, gets a very unwelcome visitor, and they say, plata y plomo, silver or lead, you're going to pay you or we're going to kill you. And so I think most of the Mexican people really want to be rid of the cartels. The United States has invaded Mexico twice, 1845, and then around 1912, 13, chasing Pancho Villa. I don't think we should do that at all, but I think by designating them terrorists, it unlocks a lot of surveillance capabilities, a lot of intelligence gathering, and certainly the ability for special operations units to do of, by, and through Mexican units to help really degrade these cartels' ability to terrorize the society.
So what you're saying is that we are going to bulk up the confidence of the Mexican forces, I guess, right?
Yeah, the federales, the federal police there are very corrupt. The state and local guys are very intimidated and cowed. They've actually had to use the Mexican Marine Corps as one of the only reliable forces against the cartels, and even they have problems. So again, having a true mentorship, providing significant technology to overmatch the cartels, hopefully helps degrade their ability to terrorize that society. But again, part of the guilt is on America. We need to stop our own drug appetite because that still flows through Mexico, and that illicit profit screws that society up.
You know, it's interesting. Do you think that the Mexican forces can actually outfight the cartels? Because I get the impression the cartels are pretty good.
They're pretty good, but they've never met a JSOC level force.
Okay. You mentioned 1845, President Polk sends the U.S. Army down there. What happens if we have to resort to that?
That's a long time from now. Look, we don't want our southern neighbor collapsing. We don't want it to be a narco state. Colombia was on its way to becoming a full narco state. Remember during Pablo Escobar, and he blew up the Justice Ministry and blew up airlines, and the U.S. never had to invade. They sent advisors of, by, and through, severely degraded the cartels, the FARC, et cetera, and eventually got them to a peace deal. So I think that kind of solution is possible, but we just have to be extremely careful. I think there's been talk about even allowing the private sector to help the government, because the more government we send, we don't have a great track record of stabilizing difficult countries like Iraq or Afghanistan. So I think being extremely light in the touch and being very severe in the cartels is necessary.
Okay, we got a problem not only at our southern border, we actually got a bigger problem at our northern border. They call it the longest undefended line. Well, you know, a number of terrorist watch list suspects apprehended at our northern border is more than double the number apprehended at the southern border, even though the number of migrants coming across our southern border far exceeds those from Canada. And the problem is that the Canadian government has actually allowed use Canadian territory essentially as a staging ground for assaults on America. What do we do about Canada? I know the president has imposed tariffs, the Canadians have done this and that, but what do we do?
Some weeks ago, when the president was threatening tariffs on both Mexico and Canada, it was about that border issue. And I think Canada committed to spending a couple of $2 billion in some very specific border security capability. The RCMP, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, not a bad organization. It requires leadership. Canadians have fantastic special operations units, so they can interdict the terrorists within their own border. It comes down to leadership, and hopefully the Canadian people.
We got a lot of problems in the world. What did Britain just do to Apple a few days ago?
They just tore up the Magna Carta. I remember a few years ago, the Magna Carta was visiting the Museum of the Bible, and it's such a significant document because it's the first time that it defines a citizen's role versus the government. And I feel like we should keep it because they've lost the right to have it. Because what the British government did, they forced Apple to turn over the encryption keys for their cloud storage. And so the government police can have unlimited access to anyone's iCloud account and all the pictures, content, whatever, with no warrant or any probable cause. It's the biggest invasion of privacy in the world. It's something that not even occur in China.
You know, it's interesting because J.D. Vance at the Munich Security Conference last week talked about how freedom was being eroded in Western Europe. This is really the same thing, isn't it?
Case in point. I mean, terribly. It's that surveillance state that there's a reason our founding fathers have a constitution, but immediately a Bill of Rights to define what government cannot do. And the British people don't have that, and they are lacking for it. And you can see the slow eroding, even destruction of that society.
Because in Britain and in other places, we have these pictures of like people being rounded up for posting nasty comments.
Yeah, you can misgender someone and actually go to jail. There was a guy that, as JD pointed out, a guy sent to prison for praying for his unborn child less than 200 meters away from an abortion clinic, and he was sent to prison for that. It's extraordinary. Wasn't doing anything violent. He was praying.
Okay. I got to have time for a commercial. The Trump tribe of Texas is over there. Everybody give them a hand. Oh, I love you too. I asked Twitter what they wanted me to ask Eric. And if I were sort of up to date, I'd actually scroll down and get to the answers. But I'm not only old, but I'm old school. So here is a question for you, Eric, from Twitter, a guy named @NIXREL828. And he asked, what are we going to do with regard to future relations with Korea? There's a lot in there.
So if you haven't noticed, Korea had a bit of a political meltdown. There is massive North Korea-sponsored and CCP-sponsored subversion in Korea.
to shift their government leftward. The previous president saw that, declared martial law, probably a bit clumsy in how it went down, but it was because there was a lot of funded, organized subversion to capture that government, and now they're in real political turmoil. Beyond even North Korea threat for South Korea, their biggest threat is demographic. They are collapsing. It's one of the lowest birth rates in the world, and it's like people have stopped having children. They don't date, they're not married, they don't have kids. Demographic collapse is a real possible problem for them.
And what we're seeing is a possibility that the communists could actually take over South Korea. And I know that sounds inconceivable, but the people who are now leading in the popularity polls, they are pro-North Korea, they are pro-China, they are anti-America, they're pro-communist. This is a dangerous situation because South Korea is a really important country.
An extraordinary economic success to literally climb out of a very agrarian, super poor, starving society at the end of the Korean War to one of the highest standards of living in the world with unbelievable internet connectivity, productivity, industry. I mean, they make an enormous amount of vehicles, steel, electronics. Their aerospace industry is incredible, and I can't believe they're throwing it away.
Yeah, and that really is a situation which is hard. We've got Korea CPAC here. Talk to these people around they are fantastic. And, oh, there they are, Save Korea. You know, and the good thing, Eric, is that when conservatives in South Korea, when the conservatives in South Korea, when they rally on the streets to oppose the leftists, they fly, of course, their flag, and they fly our flag.
Well, and it's important to remember, 1953, we were still fighting against millions of Chinese communist troops there.
Yeah, and
we did fight a war. It was the Korean War after 1 million plus Chinese volunteers rolled across the Yalu River.
And that war, quote unquote, ended with an armistice, 1953. And there has been no peace treaty, which means there is still technically war on the peninsula. The North Koreans actually believe it because every once in a while they have these big terrorist events and cyber attacks all the time against South Korea. And by the way, in that armistice is China. So we are technically at war with China. There's an armistice. What's going on in China, Eric?
Look, Xi Jinping has kind of made himself dictator for life. Normally, after Mao, they were only staying for 10 years. And this last, 2-3 years ago, he changed the process, has really run an anti-corruption campaign, smashed any political opposition. It's important to remember they have political factions there as well. The Shanghai faction, the Young Princelings, he's one of those because his father was literally someone that was rolling with Mao back in the 30s already. And the Communist Youth League. Xi has all that opposition. I mean, Jack Ma, who's kind of the combination of Jeff Bezos and Zuckerberg all in one person, made some negative statement against the Central Bank of China.
Oh, yeah.
He was disappeared from public view, and he reappeared 6 months later lecturing at an elementary school in rural China. And the government said he had embraced supervision. So it's very Orwellian. Look, the issue with China, it's really a global competition of governance. Do we, as citizens that have rights under a constitution, under natural law, we choose our own government versus being effectively a serf under a Chinese Communist Party, very centralized rule where you have 0.0 rights. That is the global contest in governance. And so when people say, well, we're contesting China in Africa or elsewhere, it is global competition for how shall we govern ourselves, or shall we govern ourselves, or shall we be ruled?
You mentioned China and Africa. That reminds me of a good friend of mine, Jonathan Bass of Argent LNG, had a question for you, and that was Blackwater provided security for American companies. Now you have the Wagner Group providing security for Chinese enterprises, especially in Africa. Who is going to provide security for American businesses going forward?
Part of the issue with USAID, and I would say an over-reliance on U.S. government everywhere, doing stuff, wasting an enormous amount of money and not being very effective at it is it really crowded out the private sector from doing a lot of those creative solutions. And I think the great thing about capitalism, if there's a demand signal, the private market will respond. And as American companies do start to go abroad for energy, minerals, infrastructure projects, American private sector will be there right there with them.
Great. Another question from Twitter. This is from @RRA. Is there a plan to improve relations with Cuba?
I think the whole issue of we're invaded, right? Every day, well, much less now. But we had millions of people coming to America illegally. It is again, that competition for governance. They're coming here to America because the water works, the power, the sanitation, et cetera. When I go to really rough places and I see everything is chaos, but you go to a nice hotel, and the power, water, sanitation, and the food is there. It is a little microcosm of good governance. It's the private sector organizing things. We have a very robust private sector here with 3 levels of government: state, local, federal. The more things we do at the local level and at the private level, the better we are. Cuba has gone completely the opposite way. And a lot of the people coming from these failed countries have an all government, all the time solution. Cuba, of course, embraced all communism from the early 60s. And that has completely and totally collapsed. And I think a great outcome of a Trump presidency would be that these countries that are trapped in communism are actually liberated from it. Whether the people rise up and say enough, like Milei said, afuera, with these big government, big bloated incompetencies to be done. You got another one in Venezuela, where the people voted in socialism in '99. They've had 3 elections. The leftists completely and blatantly stole the election last summer. They lost 70-30, the Maduro regime, backed by Cuba, backed by the Chinese Communist Party and Iran. They deserve our support, our moral support, and they need to get rid of this cartel. I mean, Venezuela has effectively become a narco state. We should do business with them, but do enough business with them to flush them out.
Eric, we have run out of time. Let's talk to these people now. You talked about the Trump presidency, which means that, of course, America is back. But there are a lot of bad actors in this world. So you need to tell them what we Americans are. So hear it. We are the United States of America. And remember, everybody, USA. Come on, let's say it. USA. 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 Thank you, everybody.
I switched.
I switched.
I switched.
I made the switch to Newsmax.
We start this morning in Washington, where all eyes are on the White House. I switched to Newsmax.
Newsmax. Newsmax.
Have you made the switch? You bet I did. My whole family switched.
Everyone is making the switch. I did.
I did.
I switched, and it made all the difference. It made all the difference.
Have you made the switch? You should.
Millions are switching to Newsmax. You should too.
Every institution today is under attack. The home, the church, the government. And many people are asking, what is the truth? Jesus Christ claimed to be ultimate truth. Are you willing to face the truth?
Do you think the MK Ultra project ever actually ended?
The Central Intelligence Agency is actively involved in mind manipulation.
We all answer to one God and one Savior. And He's there to change your life for the better.
This lunacy will end on my first day back in the Oval Office. I promise you it will end immediately.
Hi, Donald John Trump.
do solemnly swear.
RSBN, by the way, how good is RSBN? They do a good job. So beautiful.
Who's AARP really watching out for these days? They've made billions partnering with big health insurance corporations while opposing reforms seniors want, like applying big discounts to medicines directly at the pharmacy counter. Instead, AARP supports liberal price-setting schemes, giving politicians, not seniors, control over any so-called Medicare savings with no guarantees. Funds won't be spent on unrelated programs or pad big insurers' profits. If AARP and Congress believe America's seniors aren't watching, think again. Paid for by American Commitment.
Every institution today is under attack. The home, the church, the government. And many people are asking, what is the truth? Jesus Christ claimed the ultimate truth. Are you willing to face the truth?
Do you think the MK Ultra project ever actually ended?
The Central Intelligence Agency is actively involved in mind manipulation.
We all answer to one God and one Savior. And he's there to change your life for the better.
All right, America is back on track 2025, but next year's CPAC 2026 is going to be even bigger. Go get your tickets now. Go to cpac.org and join the movement.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is changing laws and changing lives, stopping human trafficking. Please welcome Attorney General of Georgia, Chris Carr, National Correspondent, Blaze Media, Julio Rosas, award-winning investigative reporter, Sarah Carter, and your moderator, CPAC Chairman, Matt Schlapp.
Hi, Sarah.
I love Sarah too. I love Sarah too. We all love Sarah. But how about Julio? Guayabera, huh? I like this. It's a bold move.
Red, white, and blue. So yeah,
I love it.
The Latin flair, but still patriotic.
It's good. It works. It's kind of like it adds to the international flavor of this.
I just missed Florida, so I'm looking forward to go back.
Yeah.
All right, guys, let's dive into this awfully important topic. I want to be made irrelevant in this conversation because all of you are doing amazing things. But Sarah, I just want to pitch it to you to get started. We went down to CPAC, Mexico. We're in Mexico City. By the way, my Cuban wife was like, I don't know if you guys know this, there's like a little rivalry between all the Latinos and Latinas.
Very.
Not the Latinx, because that's like an unexistent thing. But you know, the Cubans and the Puerto Ricans and the Venezuelans, there's like, you know, they have their own little rivalries. But she's like, oh, the Mexicans. I don't know. Should we be doing CPAC Mexico? And then she like falls in love with the Mexicans. If you've ever been to Mexico City.
You absolutely fall in love.
And let me tell you, Americans have to be careful because we're like, oh, we can't go to Mexico City. It's dangerous. And after I got back from Mexico City, I was like, I think Americans ought to stop saying that because have you been to San Francisco or LA or New York City? I think we got our own problems. But the point is we go down to Mexico City and with Eduardo Verostegui and Rosie and all these new friends we made. Tell us a little bit about what they're doing in this great orphanage, Chalco.
So we were very blessed when we were in Mexico. We had an opportunity to be with Kaleido. It's a nonprofit organization that works with children that have been trafficked. These are all children, kids under the age of 18. So they have special homes in undisclosed locations in Mexico that are specifically for the kids that have been rescued from their abductors. So whenever you hear stories, and we were talking about this backstage with the AG, with Julio, with Matt, whenever you hear stories like, is that really true? Are children really being abducted? Are children being trafficked? Yes, they are, because I took you and Mercy with Rosie to these homes so that you could see for yourself and meet these children. And we were able to go to the homes and talk to some of the children that were being kept there. Some of the children are as young as 6 years old. And this is in Mexico. We have homes in the United States as well. So when we discuss the topic of human trafficking, and when I'm on television and I talk about it, when I work on investigative stories and travel like Julio to Central America, and we talk about the US-Mexico border, and you see these beautiful little children, 2 years old, crying because they're alone and they've been trafficked into the United States. I want you to imagine what it must be like for those kids to be brought into this country and then literally delivered into the hands of their abusers. But when I was backstage and I saw that video clip of President Trump, and after he was shot, and thinking how close we all were to losing him, and how grateful I am to God that he is now the president of these United States.
Literally saving children's lives.
Literally saving children's lives. When we were here last year, and I'll let you move on right after I say this. When we were here last year or the year before, we were always talking about, what are we going to do? How are we going to stop this? It's being stopped right now because we have a president that actually cares. He's not.
Right, I thought it was the Democrats who cared about people.
Right. Yeah. Oh, they're supposed to.
But they're the ones who. It's all about the children.
Right. And but this is about actually really, if you care about the people that are being trafficked, if you care about our children, and the fact that we need to protect them from fentanyl, that we need to protect them from the drugs that are pouring across the border and the dangers that lead to gang infestation in our communities, then you have to care about shutting down that border.
That's right.
No longer are we emboldening the drug cartels or the human traffickers. We are saying absolutely not. You are on call. We are coming after you. Your time has ended. It is over for you. And our president, President Donald J. Trump, with the help of this administration, is going to do that.
So these nuns, I think they're the Sisters of Mary.
Right.
They're actually in some of the worst areas all over the globe. They're in Korea. They're in the Philippines.
Correct.
They're in Mexico. They pull, Nancy's sitting here in the front row. She knows this. They pull 4,000 girls approximately out of the most desperate of situations around Mexico. And they tell their families, give us your daughters for a period of time. Mm-hmm. They learn many languages. They have rosary, I think, every night at 6. They have an amazing formation. It's like a small number of nuns. And when I say there are a small number of nuns, and they are small nuns, but I don't know if you know something about nuns.
They are.
The smaller the nun, the more they pack the punch. These are tough ladies. These are tough and sweet ladies. And they're surrogate mothers for 4,000 girls, many of whom pulled out of trafficking, pulled out of sexual abuse, pulled out of just terrible poverty. And you see this room and you realize one child at a time.
Right.
One child at a time. You save one child. You change history, right?
You change history. And a lot of these young women, and Nancy, you can attest to this because you know them as well, they get treatment. So these children, once they've been abused, once they've been sold into trafficking, the houses where we were at, there was a lot of sexual abuse. We went both to a house that held young girls. We also visited a home for boys. A lot of these children get psychological treatment, medical treatment, full treatment. So it's an all-around, all-encompassing, multi-purpose, multifaceted home to get them prepared for the future and for their future lives. Many of these young girls, in fact, a few of them have become international lawyers fighting against human trafficking.
The graduates of these programs are amazing, and they have such character. We walked into the home with the boys, and you meet them, and then they sang for us.
Yeah, they did.
Not a dry eye in the house. Can you imagine, after being through things I can't even imagine?
I can't. Yeah.
Most of us can't imagine. They still have the character and the strength to raise their voices to God and to, have this beauty about them. And so it's, I'd just like to encourage you all to, if you ever read cynical reports of what, I don't know. It seems like they're making it up, putting it in movies and everything else. Chris, you and I are old now. You seem to have lost your hair. I seem to have had my hair turn a different color. We both had brown hair at one point when we were working together on the Hill. You're now in Georgia. What can this room do? What can CPAC do to help those of you who are in law enforcement get the bad guys and make sure they don't victimize any more kids?
Well, and Sarah was talking about one element. That's restoration. Think about it. Let's talk a little bit about what human trafficking is, sex trafficking. And what we see in Georgia, we're talking about the average age of a victim is a 14 to 17-year-old girl. So we're talking about the 8th to the 11th grade. And human trafficking breaks human beings. And I believe everybody in this room believes in the dignity, value, and worth of every human being. And we have an obligation to put those human beings, try to put them back together. But you do it through restoration. But you also do it, Matt, through legislation. And that's why your ranking system matters, to make sure that legislators and the public understand what laws need to be passed. Because as you said, 8 years ago when I became Attorney General, people said that we were making this up, but we're literally having children.
Making it a political issue.
Making it a political issue, trying to scare people. But when you have 14 to 17-year-old girls being bought and sold 5 to 10 times per day, this is an issue that I think we not just have a legal obligation, but a moral one as well. So absolutely. So education. Every single person in this room can be trained on the signs of human trafficking, and I'd encourage you to do it. We in Georgia, our first ladies, put a training system together. You got to educate, you've got to legislate, but you also have to prosecute. And that's what we've done. So in 2019, in our state, our governor, our legislature gave us the authority to prosecute human trafficking. In these 5 years, we've rescued and assisted over 200 victims. That's 200 lives that will forever be changed. We've convicted 50 individuals on trafficking, and this is sellers as well as buyers and enablers. What's an enabler? Well, we prosecuted a clerk in a hotel that was in on the act as well. And as Sarah said this, you cannot be serious about fighting human trafficking if you're not willing to secure the border. Because gang affiliated, human trafficking, 80% of human trafficking is gang affiliated, both in the country as well as transnational gangs, as well as the cartels. And finally, we have an administration that's not willing to coddle criminals, but President Trump and AG Bondi and Kash Patel, they're willing to go after and partner with us too. So the cavalry is coming, and the people in this room are the cavalry as well. And God bless you for doing it.
So when you go to the airport and the either TSA official or the airline official, I have 5 daughters. And when they look at me and ask me a couple extra questions, or my daughters a couple extra questions, you might think that they're harassing you. They're not. Because what these perpetrators do is they act like the little girl with them or the little boy with them is their kin. And oftentimes, especially with all this illegal immigration, they're not. And so welcome those questions. And if you see something that doesn't look right, go tell someone, I don't think this looks right, because they're masquerading as families, but they're really victimizing these kids. Is that right, Chris?
And that's a critically important point. When you train, you'll see the signs of human trafficking. Then you got to get over the stigma of actually going to somebody in law enforcement and saying, hey, I think something's wrong. We would be better off to be wrong than let one more child be abused, okay? Please take this seriously.
So what Chris is saying is all of us together collectively, all of you who support CPAC, we're the only group that ranks and rates every state legislator, every state senator, every state house member, every U.S. senator, every congressman, every governor. We're ranking all these people. There's all these international people. I think we should start rating the EU personally, the EU Parliament as well. But it's all the same stuff, guys. We're fighting all the same evil, satanic battles. But that's a good tool, and what we're using that tool for, including the money when you buy tickets and everything else, it's going towards these causes. One of them is hold these legislators accountable, and human trafficking is one of the ways we want to hold them accountable. Julio, the border, you spent a lot of time there. Sarah spent a lot of time there. Mexico's a complicated country. As I said, Mexico City is a beautiful country. They've elected this left-wing leader, unfortunately, to the presidency. But behind that, there's a lot of Mexican victims in the country with the rise of the cartels and everything else. Give us a little insight of the latest in the battle.
Yeah, I mean...
Well, by the way, I think the cartel heads are sweating a little bit that Donald Trump was elected president.
Thank God.
Yeah, definitely change dynamic. No, I mean, that's what always would surprise me, especially when the border crisis was at its peak, because whenever Republicans would obviously criticize saying this is the wrong approach, they say, well, that's racist. You're just fear mongering. You're scared.
And that would back us down. I mean, I always used to say they used to put me on CNN because I looked like Colonel Sanders or something. It's like when the black commentator knows that they call the white guy a racist, initially 5, 6, 7 years ago, the white guy's like, I got to get out of this conversation. There's no win here. Today, that's all changed because people of color have had enough of everyone being called a racist because there's actual racism and they've ruined the term by making it a political term.
Right. And so it would make me upset because obviously with the increase of illegal crossings and human trafficking, that became more profitable than drug smuggling because that became a cash cow. Alejandro Mayorkas, he said one of the most idiotic things, but it's because he was forced to.
Which one? Which one?
It was at the very beginning of the Biden administration where he said, if any child comes to the border by themselves, we will take them in. And that was the worst thing to say because that was the dinner bell for these human smuggling organizations. Right. Because not only is there a guarantee of a supply that they can provide for this demand, but it was the green light. It was a green light for that. And then of course, as the cartels got that influx of cash, the Mexicans became victimized even more from their activities. So by emboldening these very dangerous criminal organizations, not only is it a threat to us here in the United States, but it's also a threat to the everyday Mexicans. And so, having a strong border and actually taking on these organizations is actually the best thing that we can do, not only for the United States, but also for our neighbors in Mexico. And I went to Oaxaca after the election to interview migrants to see what they were planning on doing now that Trump was going to be in office. And we were interviewing these group of Venezuelans. And as we were interviewing them, a small motorbike came up from behind. And if anyone has seen any videos from violence in Latin America, if a motorbike is coming, that's not usually a good sign. And this guy jumps off. He tells me to stop recording. He starts interrogating me and my team, and we're trying to figure, what's going on? We have permission. We asked, and I was very concerned because I didn't know who this guy was. I didn't know if he was affiliated with any local gang or the cartel. It turned out that he was actually concerned about us outsiders coming into this camp because he said, the reason why I'm doing this is and trying to force you guys out is because there's always people coming into the camps and taking away the women and children. And so this is, as Sarah was saying, this is real. It was the worst it's ever been with the destructive policies and the deliberate policies from the Biden-Harris administration. It is absolutely disgusting that this was not only allowed to happen, but it was made to happen.
At the tune of over 500,000 children coming into our country unaccompanied. Just think of that number.
Over what period of time?
That was during the Biden administration. So you had over 500,000 children.
We don't know where they are, right?
Over 300,000 were placed into homes we have no way of tracking. So we have no idea where they're at. Some of these places where they placed them, and I give Tara Rodas so much credit for this because she's a hero whistleblower from HHS, right? Tara, for those of you who don't know, look her up. But some of these children were placed in strip clubs. Like HHS literally turned over people who wrote down strip club addresses for these children and they can't find them. So now that we have Tom Homan in office, this is, as the borders are with President Trump, this is a top priority for them to locate these children, to ensure that if people are abusing them or if they're in the hands of abusers, that those people are prosecuted by the Department of Justice with Pam Bondi.
So Chris, can I say something on this real fast? I want you to jump in, but there's a political side to this too, which is the Democrats cynically believed that they own the black vote, that they own the Hispanic vote, that they own the immigrant vote, that they own the gay vote, they own these voting blocks. And so I believe they opened up the border, not because they have compassion for kids. If they're giving them to owners of strip clubs and stuff, that shows that was crap. But the fact is, this was a cynical ploy to let millions of people, 15 million at a minimum, into this country to change it demographically I think the irony is a lot of those people, when they realize who we are and what America's all about, more and more of them are going to vote our way. But what's your take? Am I wrong about the politics?
No, you're right. And here's the other thing that I think this is important for conservatives to understand. You know, when I got into this 8 years ago, we didn't have a lot of criminal jurisdiction, but now we have human trafficking and gangs and organized retail theft. And I was told by somebody on the other side, be careful dealing with some of these issues because, Matt, like you said, you're going to get criticized for who the criminals are. And I said, well, I don't care what the criminal looks like. I care about the act that they engage in. But if we're going to look at something, let's look at who the victims are. Who is most often terrorized, vulnerable to human trafficking? Lower income, racially diverse immigrant populations. Who's most susceptible to violent crime and gangs? Lower income, racially diverse immigrant population. And when the woke DA won't prosecute property crimes and the CVS and the Walgreens and the Walmart has to close, which communities are most often impacted? Lower income, racially diverse, and immigrant. It's us conservatives that believe in the dignity, value, and worth of every human being. And we're the ones that believe no matter what your race or gender or where you're from, you deserve to be safe in this country. And we now have a president that agrees with that. And we in the state of Georgia believe in it. And it is paying dividends electorally as well.
And as much as I love a good political fight, I love a good political fight more than anything else, I'd give all that up to be able to shake hands with the head of the Democratic Party and say, let's work on this together.
Absolutely.
It would save the lives of millions of children if they will just engage us on the idea that if you don't secure your border, you're victimizing children.
Well, it's a human issue. It's not conservative, liberal, Republican, or Democrat. It is a human issue.
Well, and that's why, I mean, I can't emphasize this point enough. I always make sure to, whenever I'm talking about this issue, no one had heard of Tren de Aragua before 2021.
Yep.
They started in Venezuela when all the Venezuelans were starting to leave back in the 2010s. It then became a Latin American issue. And then when Biden opened the border, was coming, Tren de Aragua followed. And now we have cells all across the United States. And like, okay, it's great that we're really trying to make efforts to crack down on them. But it had to take cases like Lincoln Riley in order for people to actually take this seriously. And so many other victims as well. And that's why I have to laugh, because as we all seen, there's been anti-ICE protests by people who look like me. And they're, say, we have to stop deportations. You have to, screw ICE and all this stuff. They're taking away hardened gang members right now. That's who they're prioritizing.
Come on, Julio. I know you're as cynical as I am. How are these? First of all, I wouldn't take on Tom Homan if you gave me like $1 million. He scares the hell out of me. He's going to be here, and I'm going to be very deferential. But second of all, these are paid agitators. Sometimes they have a pink you-know-what hat on their head. Sometimes it says BLM on their shirt. Right. Other times it's like anti-ICE. This is a coordinated, well-funded campaign to destabilize our political gains, right? And momentum.
And Antifa. And Antifa as well.
Oh, no, Antifa. Chris, I don't know if you understand this. Excuse me. I always forget. I know we're friends, General. Excuse me. Antifa is what did the guy say, the FBI director? It's a made up.
Yeah.
It's an idea.
It's an idea. It's not
an idea.
An actual group.
It's an idea until they punch you in the face, and then it's not such a good idea.
And I would say that, after 2020, because of the unbalanced judicial system that we previously had, even though the rioters stopped, the systems that were in place in 2020 to maximize that chaos, it never went away. And so that's why I kind of have faith now that we have Cash Patel at the FBI.
I do.
That those networks will finally be dismantled. And that's not to say there can't be any other types of chaos, but the systems, that never went away.
Can I just say,
well, and this is...
you have children, I have children.
Right.
Marty's probably done this. Here I'm living in the swamp. Not very popular in the swamp. Not very popular in my neighborhood. Not very popular with the local paper. You know that.
And not afraid to put the Trump sign up.
But I had to sit my girls down. I hated this. This was one of the grossest moments. Sat them down and said, the FBI comes to the door. Don't let them in. Don't talk to them. Don't trust them. I felt like dirty in saying that because I'm a pro-cop guy, but that's the reality. Cash Patel coming in, Tom Homan coming in, Trump coming in, people like Chris Carr in office, we got to stop the weaponization.
Well, that's
Gotta
it.
stop. Absolutely.
That's it. And I know we're running short on time, and I just want to say this really quick too.
She's a TV person, so she's very good at the prompter. When it's over, it's over.
Yeah, it's over. It's over. It's like, okay, sorry. But this is what Matt's saying is absolutely essential. What we were up against the last 4 years was a weaponization of our bureaucracy in such a way that it was destroying the foundation of our nation. It was breaking and tearing our nation apart. The reason we have people like Kash Patel and others, thank God, in these bureaucracies is to root out that corruption and to expose it. And the only way we're going to be able to protect ourselves and our families is by doing what's right. Common sense tells us, don't leave the border wide open. Don't do it. We protect our homes. We shut our front doors at night. Why do we leave our border wide open? This is going to take a lot of work. It's going to take the FBI. It's going to take the DOJ. It's going to take UAG, working day in and day out in order to save our country. Because as much as we're talking about the victimization of these children, our adversaries are out there, China, Iran and others, and they're seeing that border, and they saw that border as the last 4 years as an open sieve to destroy our country. And many times it comes across as a proxy war, like they did with fentanyl coming from China. And so we have to be very aware, and I'm just so grateful to be living in this time, in this amazing time where I know our country.
Did this room do a good job or what?
Wow, this
Thank
room's
you guys.
amazing.
You saved America. I think you saved civilization.
I do too.
I know that sounds like a broad term. And I just want to say in conclusion, thanks for being here, of course. And keep up the good work, Chris. And we got two real journalists here. These are real journalists.
Thank you.
The new version of journalists. But I just want to say one thing in conclusion. When you see the videos throughout the next couple of years, when you read the false charges about how either Kash or Tom Homan or Kristi Noem or Donald Trump or fill in the gap are destroying the lives of these mostly Hispanic people who are here illegally as deportations occur, all the lies and slurs that will come out, videos that will be true, probably deep fakes.
Right.
Instead of the ones when they said, well, Biden doesn't really have Alzheimer's. He's actually sharp as a tack. Yeah, whatever. When you read all that, understand behind that, what they're doing actually in securing the border is saving the lives of millions of kids who would have committed, killed themselves with fentanyl, who would be victimized because they don't matter in our system. So don't let them lie to you. Know what's behind the headlines. Every country that believes in freedom starts with a border. And Chris and I are Catholic, even at the Vatican, by the way. You can't get in the Vatican without an appointment.
That's right.
And a country shouldn't be any different than that. So thank you all for being here today, and keep up the fight.
Okay?
Oh, yeah.
Appreciate it.
Ladies and gentlemen, blessed are the prosecuted, fixing justice. Please welcome Attorney General of Pennsylvania, Dave Sunday, Mayor of Knox County, Tennessee, Glenn Jacobs, CPAC's Nolan Center for Justice Senior Fellow, Savannah Chrisley, and your moderator, Director of CPAC's Prosecutors and Law Enforcement Advisory Council, Frank Russo.
You nailed it. Thank you.
What's that? I said you nailed it. I was following you. You got there.
I'll ignore the Go Vols being a Georgia Bulldog myself, but thank you all for joining us today. We are honored to be here with such an important panel focused on one of the most important issues. You just heard from our chairman, Matt Schlapp, that the weaponization of government is tearing our country apart. And thankfully, in November, the voters brought an end to that damage.
Amen.
But unfortunately, there are still victims of that weaponization. And thankfully, there are prosecutors and elected leaders who are working to fix it. So I want to start with someone who's had to live through this weaponization. Savannah, you are well known to this audience, not just for a slightly popular show that some of us have seen on Bravo. My wife's a little jealous.
Well, thank you.
But also for some of the challenges your family faced when prosecutors who put politics over public safety harmed your family. Can you tell us your story?
2 years ago, both my parents went to prison for a combined 19 years. My dad got 12 and my mom got 7. This was in Fulton County, Georgia, and where prosecutors labeled us the Trumps of the South. And I spoke at the Republican National Convention, and as I like to say, I would take that as a compliment. I will be the Trumps of the South. I'll take it. But it's sad. I mean, because of that, I got custody of my 10-year-old sister and 16-year-old brother at the time. And that's when I learned to fight. That's when I learned to fight and to uncover the injustices that happen with us. There were huge Fourth Amendment violations, and the government even went to accuse us of money laundering and terrorism just so that they could access certain financial documents. And when you have things like that happen, it taints the entire case. And I tell people all the time, if you want to convict them, I'm fine with that. But do it based off of the truth. And the government shouldn't be allowed to break every single law in order to get a conviction. And our judge, too. That's a whole other story. First off, I do not believe prosecutors should have full immunity. That we have to get rid of that. People have to be held accountable. And our judge, she is the youngest African-American female appointed by Obama. And you look at her Wikipedia page, and her notable cases are ruling against Trump for mail-in ballots. She also refused to allow the victims of Hurricane Helene to register to vote late. And then my family's case. So I think you have something in common there.
So you mean to tell me that the weaponization of justice actually has a face? And it's your family.
It does.
It's families who care about the communities they live in.
And I think what's sad is we had the money to fight this.
Yes.
And we spent millions of dollars. I want to say it was about $6 million on trial lawyers. And they still ended up in prison for a combined 19 years. And most people don't have those resources. That's why the DOJ has a 98, 99% conviction rate, because they scare people, and people have to plead out no matter if they're guilty or not. And 1 in 20 criminal cases result in a wrongful conviction. I would argue it's more than that. And that is why I had lunch at the White House on Thursday. And that's why I am a daughter fighting for justice for my parents and to get them home.
Yep. So now that we know what the problem is, we have 2 gentlemen who are going to have to fix it. No pressure.
Yeah, none.
Mayor Jacobs, can you talk a little bit about accountability and redemption? Because we still want to hold the actual criminals accountable. And then we want to ensure those who come home have the resources to stop that cycle of crime. I know you've been doing that work in Tennessee.
Yeah, right. As conservatives, we believe in public safety. We also believe in fiscal responsibility. On the left, what they've done with the criminal justice system has undermined both. They've used the criminal justice system for weaponization against political opponents while allowing violent criminals to literally go free. And it's been done at a huge cost, not only to public safety, but also fiscally. First of all, law enforcement's an extremely difficult job. We lost an officer that was killed in line of action a couple years ago. He was a young man named Tucker Blakely. So my hat's off to everyone in law enforcement, as well as in the criminal justice system at large. As you say,
when you think about, the criminal justice system, obviously some folks have to go to jail. They've committed crimes that necessitate that they have to be removed from society. We also have to realize that 97% of these people will come back out of jail at some point, and what happens then. So in Tennessee, we're very invested in reentry programs that lessen the rate of recidivism. That's the 3-year rate of when people go back to jail. Across the country, it's 70%. In Tennessee, it's still at 50%. One of the organizations that we work with is Men of Valor. It's a Christ-centered prison ministry that walks with men through their incarceration as well as post-incarceration. The people that complete this 1-year program, it is a great program. The people that complete this 1-year program, their recidivism rate drops to less than 15%. So it makes a significant difference. And the great thing is, this is a private organization. So there's very little government funding that goes to it. But I think that when we're thinking about criminal justice, we have to look at those two. It's public safety, but it's also fiscal responsibility. And we can do both.
I agree completely. And I think the faith element is so vital to this process. These are people we are restoring to our communities to make sure that we stay safe.
Well, now we have a president that is bringing Jesus back to the center. And I think when you have that at the center, everything else falls into place.
100%. And the question I think a lot of people ask is, can you win on this message? We saw last fall, and I think one of the great successes of that cycle was the only attorney general's race that flipped Republican. The only race in general that flipped at all was Dave Sunday in Pennsylvania, who ensured that we pushed out progressive prosecutors and brought in a conservative leader. Dave, can you talk about how this message resonated with voters and got rid of that progressive prosecutor movement that has made so many people, so many of us here, you're in Washington, D.C. or close to it, unsafe?
I'll say that the best policies, I think, all come from your own personal life experience. And, I was a little bit of a knucklehead when I was a kid. And so I joined the Navy right out of high school. I came home and I worked at UPS for 8 years, all through college and all through law school. And when I worked at UPS, I'll tell you, I worked with people that worked so unbelievably hard, that fought every day to put food on their table and take care of their families. I then went on after law school and became a prosecutor. Prosecuted, everything from gang murders to domestic violence killings, drug traffickers. And what I realized all those years of prosecuting and putting people in jail, that the reality was if our community is not safe, nothing else matters. And the only way we could get to that place was by not only holding people accountable, but by embracing redemption for those that have already served their time. When people come out of prison, what I want to see is them work. I want to see people have career jobs. I want to see people take care of their families and pay their taxes and pay restitution. And more importantly, recognize that they have the power within themselves to change their lives. They don't need government to do it. They can do it themselves. And when you apply that to the criminal justice system and work with the business community, the manufacturers associations, when you work with the faith-based community, with substance use counselors, mental health counselors, you get everybody together, then what happens is magic, and crime rates go down. And our crime rate went down almost around 45%. Our homicide rate dropped by over 80% during that time period. And this is critical because success breeds success. And then other people that weren't quite sure started coming to the table. And we realized our prisons are full of people that have severe mental health illnesses. And so we tried to find a way to help get them to get mental health treatment. It took the pressure off police departments because the police need to be out there doing their job and getting the bad guys, not sitting, at a hospital staring at someone who's going through treatment. So my point very simply is I wasn't sure how the community would respond to that. That's my life story and how I've handled myself. And they responded in a very resounding and positive way. And that speaks volumes, I think.
Yeah. Well, I think when you speak about mental health within the prison system, there was a hearing and the former director, Colette Peters, which I say former, thank God, she was probably the worst thing to happen to the Bureau of Prisons. And I'm saying that as a woman. When she was sworn in, she gave me hope. I was like, finally, there's a woman in power. And she let us all down. She testified, and over half the deaths in the system were due to suicide. over half of the deaths in the system. So it shows that there is a mental health crisis, and we have to take care of that first. And I like to tout myself as kind of the James O'Keefe of the prison system, because it has been my mission the past 2 years to absolutely deconstruct them. And the things that I have uncovered are extremely damning. I mean, the corruption that goes on within these facilities, these officials should be the ones in prison. And until we hold them accountable, we're going to continue that same rat race over and over and over again.
We continue to allow the political decision makers in our criminal justice system to harm those who work in it and who are forced into it or who have to live through it because of the mistakes that they've made. I don't think there's a single cop in this room that's protecting us that wants to harass parishioners at their churches or that wants to go into communities and harass parents at school boards. And yet that's what we had for 4 years. What does that do to a police force? What does that do? Mayor Jacobs, you have to oversee a lot of these law enforcement officers. It decimates their mental
demoralizing.
Health. It's demoralizing.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And back to the mental health aspect, we've done a great disservice to law enforcement.
Yes.
With essentially making them the mental health experts and the caretakers of folks who have severe mental illness. In Knox County, we estimate that about 35% of our daily census at our jail suffers from mental illness. And the reason is there's no place else for these folks. So you have law enforcement people who are trained to be cops, or in this case, corrections officers, and they're forced to be mental health professionals, which they're not. I was really happy. We just started a mental health court in Knox County. There's only about 300 around the country. It's a new concept in Tennessee. But basically, folks that qualify, that have mental illness, stand in front of a judge, but instead of going to jail, the judge oversees their sentence, and they have to go to counseling. They have to be on their meds and all those sort of things. But yes, that frees up police resources because then they're no longer acting as mental health professionals. They can do the job that they're trained to do, and it makes things safer for everybody.
Right.
And also, you're exactly right. President Trump's First Step Act is overwhelmingly popular with Republican primary voters. So it is a winning issue.
With the First Step Act, my biggest issue, I am a huge advocate for the First Step Act, but what the last administration failed to do was implement the First Step Act. And because they failed to implement it, you have the Bureau of Prisons that's asking for more money. Well, instead of asking for more money, why don't you actually implement the First Step Act, the Second Chance Act, and it could reduce. They are wasting upwards of $1 billion.
I have an answer for you, because they're not concerned with public safety or fiscal responsibility. They just want to make sure that bureaucrats get more money, more power. That's
exactly.
why.
And I think, too, taking the Bureau, I have heard, and let's hope this is right, but taking the Bureau of Prisons away from the DOJ and giving it to DHS is going to be the most brilliant move, in my opinion, because I do not believe the DOJ should be able to charge you, sentence you, and house you too.
We spent 4 years with the Biden administration acting as judge, jury, and executioner. Yep. And in that pace, I think what we don't talk enough about is what did that actually do to law enforcement? In my hometown of Roswell, Georgia, we lost an officer 2 weeks ago, the first one in 40 years. We've talked a lot about the problem, and there are real consequences. The good news is there is a solution, and that solution was delivered by all of you in November. And I'm excited, Dave, for you to talk a little about how we're going to keep communities safe now that you have a federal government that supports law enforcement, supports the rule of law, and thanks to Kash Patel, Pam Bondi, Kristi Noem, and others, is going to actually start solving these problems. You deserve to be safe. Dave, I know you're part of that solution because the voters sent you up in Pennsylvania to solve this.
They did. I mean, I ran on, if our communities aren't safe, nothing else matters. And it's something that I believe in my heart. I mean, when you look at the challenges facing us right now, if you think about, I mean, millions of times a day, someone online is trying to get to our children every single day, all day long. We have an aging population in America, and every single day, millions of times a day, people are trying to steal our seniors, the money that they saved up throughout the course of their life. And I don't care if it's $1 or $1 billion, they earned it. It's their money. They can do with it what they want until the day they die. And I find it, and so when you add on the technology right now with AI, it's become so complex. Drug trafficking has become complex. And so what I look forward to doing is collaborating with all of our partners, from local law enforcement to state law enforcement to federal law enforcement, and really bring everyone together with a common goal, which is to make our community safer. That's to get fentanyl off of our streets. I mean, that's to go after the organized crime, these gangs that are shooting up our cities, and hold them accountable and put them in prison. The data shows that when you get the right people in prison, the right people, okay, crime goes down astronomically. And so you have to use precision policing, targeted prosecutions, and you have to do it in a manner that's fair and that's safe. And then at the end of the day, that's how we'll make our community safer. So
have now the keys to solving a lot of these problems within your own city. You've actually seen the successes and talked about it. What should people here know and take back to their communities? What should this audience be telling their local officials when they go to town halls? And yes, that's me asking you to take a challenge. You should go to a town hall. It's cold in Alexandria, Virginia. I still go. I hope y'all do too. Can you tell them what message they should be bringing to their elected officials?
So it ain't rocket science, okay? This is not. You get the violent criminals off the streets. Make sure that the people that are going to reenter society have a pathway to do so successfully. And that's pretty much it. That solves so many of these issues. And the justice system should never be used for political purposes. Justice is supposed to be blind. And for the past 4 years, it's had a target on certain individuals because of politics. And that's absolutely, in fact, of all all the horrible things that happened under the Biden administration, and there's a lot of them, all right? I think that was the worst thing, because a politicized, weaponized justice system, that is literally the definition of a banana republic, and we were this close to slipping into that.
Yep.
Savannah, I'll ask a similar question. What can people know about your story? How can they make a difference and impact, and how can we get your family out of this nightmare and back to the rule of law in our society?
Yeah, for me, I believed bad people go to prison. That's just what I think as a kid is ingrained in you. And that is so far from the truth. These men and women are going to enter back into society. And I believe that God put us on this earth to love people and love people well. And let's not forget about those men and women that are incarcerated, who maybe need an additional hand, who need a little help, who need people to believe in them, because right now we have a very hopeless system, and there's nothing more dangerous than a hopeless person. And right now, with all the issues that we're working on and restoring hope within these individuals, I think Alice Marie Johnson is a prime example of what happens when someone believes in them. Alice was pardoned by President Trump the first go round, and now he has brought her on as the pardon czar, and he went out on a limb. He believed in her and he gave her a chance. So just don't ever think you're too good to give out a helping hand.
Makes a lot of sense. I think communities of all backgrounds came together to support President Trump. And the reason is, there's one thing that binds this room together. It's we care about public safety. And we care about the rule of law. And unfortunately, at whatever conference is happening back in the Biden administration, apparently that wasn't in the topic areas. So Dave, I'm going to leave it to you to answer. What do we do next? What do we expect to see next? And how do we do the hard work? You've touched on what you've already done in Pennsylvania.
Yep.
How do we do the hard work going forward of fixing this problem? Because unfortunately, as you've heard over the last 3 days, the Biden administration apparently left us with a lot of problems. I don't think any of us are surprised by that.
Shocker.
So I'll try to be as quick as I can. I'm looking at the time.
Yep.
So to start with, we have to have the courage to fight tough battles. And what I mean by that is a lot of the things we're talking about up here, severe behavioral health problems, the opioid epidemic, issues with regard to trauma on children. These aren't things that we can solve in a day. These are things that will take time and courage to be able to work through them. They're greater than the political cycle. And when we come together as a community and we work on this, and these are all conservative values, and we come together and we do this, our community will begin to get better. You have to have the courage to do it. The second thing, and what I want to, you said something earlier that was so fantastic. We expect our police to be domestic violence counselors, mental health counselors, substance abuse counselors. We expect police to have the answer to every single problem within a split second, oftentimes 10 to 15 times a day. And we have to get them the support so that they can do their core function of patrolling, keeping communities safe, and investigating very serious crimes and putting the bad guys in jail. So support your police. And I said, don't always have the courage to take the tough battles, like winning Pennsylvania.
Like winning Pennsylvania. That was an important one.
Yeah.
I think it's easy to conclude on this. Today, we are being protected by strong, brave men and women of the Secret Service, of law enforcement. Yep. We owe it not just to ourselves, but to them to make America safe again. We know President Trump will do that. We know that our friends up here on the stage will do that. And CPAC ensuring accountability and redemption are what are the tenets of law in this country. Thank you for joining us, and let's make America safe again this year.
America is under attack. Our families are being crushed under the politics of a radical agenda. But moms have had enough. We are standing up and we are fighting back.
This is our battle. This battle is every bit as important as a Revolutionary War because we fight for the same thing.
Moms for America is a national movement of moms reclaiming our culture for truth, family, freedom, and the Constitution.
I think Moms for America is exactly on track and is doing the right thing for the future of our country and our children.
Like Moms for America is going at the heart of the issue.
I want to go on the record and say I'm for Moms for America, and I'm especially for Moms for America.
But I am honored to join Moms for America today as we speak out against the horrific mandates.
With a national network of over 500,000 mothers, Moms for America is one of the fastest growing movements of women in the country.
Well, the most dangerous place in all of nature is between a mama bear and her baby cub.
We are the change. No matter what, no matter where, and no matter how difficult the obstacles are that are facing us and our families, we will not give up and we will not give in.
So if not now, then when? If not you, then who?
Welcome to the Homeland Revolution.
You came to watch. Two reasons. Some of you came here for position, for power and fame. You came for you. But if you came to change this town, we came to be sandpaper to a culture that despises truth. Are you one of the few willing to stand in the gap for our nation? If so, come join us as we make America's national motto our personal declaration.
Creators, it's time to take control. With Bursts, you create impactful content in seconds. Powered by blockchain, your content and earnings are protected, transparent, and yours to control. Play TV isn't just a platform. It's a community of creators building a new future together. Your freedom starts when you press play.
The conservative movement has come a long way. Back in the 1990s, there were so few college women who were interested in conservative ideas that we all fit on a very small boardroom table. Look at all of you in this room now.
There's something special about conservative women. You all have a unique opportunity, I think in this generation in particular, to step into that full vision of womanhood.
All right, America is back on track 2025, but next year, CPAC 2026 is going to be even bigger. Go get your tickets now. Go to cpac.org and join the movement.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome White House Deputy Chief of Staff, Dan Scavino.
Good morning, everybody. How's everybody doing? Let's go. It's a great honor to be here. Mercedes and Matt, thank you very much. And congratulations on everything that you've accomplished with CPAC over the years. And again, it's a great honor. I'm truly humbled to be here. Thank you. I have two words for all of you. I said this before. I don't speak a lot publicly. I like being the behind-the-scenes guy, doing my job. I'm not a public speaker. I don't often come out and speak. But when I do, I speak from the heart. I have a lot of passion. I had the option for teleprompters. I said, no, thank you. I just wanted to come and say a few words and say two words. We're back. USA, 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 USA. Let's go. Again, thank you for the support of the 45th and the 47th President of the United States of America. He will be here in a couple of hours. He's excited to be here. He's got a great history of coming here. Some of his all-time greatest speeches that have gone on for hours have been right here. He'll go out before the speech is expected to be 40 to 45 minutes. Comes out on stage, comes back 2 hours later. Doesn't go off. He goes off the teleprompter. It's let Trump be Trump. Speak clear and transparent to you, the American people. What you see is he's a great man. He's a great president. And there's so many stories I could tell. It's been a long journey. And speaking of journeys, President Trump oftentimes behind the scenes will say, "You are so lucky I took you on this journey." And Team Trump that is out there will know exactly what I'm saying, whether it's subpoenas, grand jury testimonies, indictments, out on the campaign trail, big victories, out on the golf course, state dinners, championship games, World Series, Super Bowl, on the plane, in the Oval Office, good times and bad times, no matter what the news cycle is out there. He would sit and say, "You are so lucky I took you on this journey." It's been the journey of a lifetime for me. I've been with President Trump for 32 years. I started caddying for him back when I was 15 years old. I caddied, I worked in the bag room. And this real estate mogul came up to Westchester County, New York to buy a golf course. Pulls up in the limousine. I couldn't believe it. I went to high school. I was probably a sophomore. That Monday in school, you won't believe who I saw, who I met. The New York State real estate mogul and tycoon who redefined the New York City skyline, Donald J. Trump. And here we are 32 years later. And Mr. President, if you're watching, this has been one hell of a journey, the greatest journey of my lifetime. Thank you for having me. And by the way, thank you for joining us and supporting us, everybody out there, all great American patriots. We appreciate each and every one of you. We campaigned in a courthouse this past summer. We were all over the place. Literally, the campaign run out of the courthouse. Not only the courthouse, but we would be running around the country, barnstorming every state rather, seeing all of you out there campaigning. So much fake news out there, all of the leaks, all the defamation, all the BS that went on out there. He went out there, the indictments, everything, the lawfare. He went out there, and as he raised his hand in Butler, Pennsylvania, during that assassination attempt, and raised that fist and said, "Fight, fight, fight." That's exactly what he does behind the scenes every day. He could be out at Mar-a-Lago every day, golfing in Palm Beach, Florida, California, New York, New Jersey, Philadelphia. But he'd rather choose to be out there and fight for putting America first and making America great again. His behind the scenes moments in the assassination attempt in Butler, Pennsylvania, in the hospital, just to show you his mindset. The guy just got shot in the damn head. Somebody attempted to assassinate him. He's in the hospital, and I show him that iconic picture of him raising his fist. He goes, "Hey, Dan, how's it playing?" Sir, the entire world is wondering what's going on right now. How's everybody doing? How's the team doing? And myself and Susie Wiles and Stephen Chung and Walt Nauta were back with him. He cared about everybody else. He cared about his family. We're connecting him with Melania, Ivanka, Don Jr., Eric. He's speaking to them. How's it playing? I showed him that iconic photo. Doug Mills took it from the New York Times, great photographer. He stared at the picture, just stared at it. And he said, "How is Doug Mills doing? Is Doug okay? Call Doug and see if he's doing okay." That's his thought process with everything going on. He's just a fighter. He's truly, I call him like America's greatest host, because he's a great man, and everybody in the administration, the cabinet, and the people that spend those moments with him behind the scenes will understand, and they get what I'm saying. He just loves America. He loves people. He's just a happy-go-lucky guy, and the guy works his ass off from 5 in the morning till midnight. The guy barely sleeps, and trust me, I know from the phone calls and the messaging and things that we would put out on social media and platforms. But to be in the hospital with everything shot in the head, and he's worried about everybody else. A few hours later, we went wheels up. I believe we went back to New Jersey that evening. He was on the plane joking with all of us on the plane to make us feel, I mean, we were all, to this moment, to this day, and none of us will ever forget it. He cared about all of us on the plane, trying to make us all feel better and lift us up. And ladies and gentlemen, that is your 47th President of the United States of America. I have hundreds of stories I could share with you. Let's talk about in Pennsylvania, when he got excited to go work at McDonald's, because that's where Kamala claimed to have worked. For 2 weeks, we heard about going to work at McDonald's. He was excited to go do it. And sure enough, you all saw in those viral videos and on the news, he was at McDonald's having a good time with that French fryer and the people driving through. I'll never forget that moment when we pulled in with thousands of people lining the streets. That was the night he also went to the Pittsburgh Steelers game. But the guy couldn't wait to get to McDonald's, and he knew that it was a big moment for us. And it was pretty damn awesome, was it not? McDonald's. You guys are all garbage. Trump supporters are garbage. Oh, really, Joe? Garbage. We're going to Wisconsin. And the team, Justin Caparelli, give him a lot of credit with regards to being on the plane. We're heading out to Wisconsin, and he comes up and he says, "Mr. President, we can have a garbage truck upon arrival on the tarmac." I mean, what a time, what a campaign. What a campaign. Oh, sir, and by the way, before we went wheels up, I have an orange vest for you to wear. If you want to wear it, you go wear it off the plane. Give me that vest. Let's put that vest on. He puts the vest on the plane. We're still flying. He's being brief. We're going to land. There's going to be a garbage truck upon our arrival. It's going to say Trump 2024 on it. And sure enough, an hour and a half, 2 hours later, we land the plane. We look out the window, and there's the garbage truck being escorted to the motorcade. And there's the president sitting with his orange vest on, just looking out the window like this. I mean, just total classic and priceless. He gets off the plane, he wears the vest, right? Great moment. But then he wore it in the motorcade to the rally. Then we get to the rally, he meets Brett Favre, who endorsed him, backstage taking photos and clicks. Laughs, good times, he's getting ready. We're feeling good because this election's coming up. Where's the garbage vest? Out onto the stage. And I don't know if you heard the stories of why he wore it, but he thought he looked rather trim in it. And so he's sitting, looking in the mirror. I look rather thin in this. I look very trim. I look good. He wears the orange vest out. Hour and a half rally, comes off stage, walks back out. Time to get in the motorcade to go back to the plane, right? You take the vest off, right? He wears the orange vest into the motorcade. He said, I'm not taking this off till we get on the plane. He kept the vest on the entire time. That was a big moment for us when we were all garbage. It was like that deplorable moment. We're all sitting backstage saying, here's the moment. I could go on all day, but I don't have that much time left. We're very grateful for you. There's so many times that the president is just so grateful for the support he sees out there on social media. I mean, we won the election in an electoral landslide, swept all 7 swing states. And we not only have the 45th president and the 47th president of the United States, we got a great president who's going to put all of you first. He's going to fight, and he's going to continue, and his legacy will go down as one of the greatest presidents of all time. And together, everybody in this room, with your support, we're going to make America great again. God bless each and every one of you, and thank you for having me. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome from Wyoming, Congresswoman Harriet Hageman.
I bring you greetings from the great state of Wyoming, home of an abundance of affordable and reliable energy, wildlife galore, wide open spaces, gorgeous rivers and streams, magnificent mountains, beautiful blue skies, and not one Liz Cheney anywhere to be found. In 2024, Wyoming provided President Trump with his largest margin of victory of any state in the nation, and we are so proud of the job that he is doing. We are ecstatic that he is exposing and eradicating the massive government waste, fraud, and abuse that we have known for decades has been happening, and yet no one before would do anything about it. We are overjoyed that he has tasked Elon Musk and his team with overseeing DOGE, using their skills to implement what may be the closest thing to zero-based budgeting that we will ever see in the federal government. We are thrilled that he recognizes that we are a government of, by, and for the people, and that its primary purpose is to protect the homeland and secure our God-given rights and freedoms. It is quite apparent that the Democrats long ago stopped caring about the concerns of working class people, the truck drivers, farmers, airline employees, miners, custodians, and construction workers, among others. And they paid for such neglect by being shellacked in the last election. But far be it for them to undertake a legitimate self-assessment of their policies and ideas. They are instead engaging in kabuki theater while standing in front of government agencies, screaming their opposition to everything good and just generally making fools of themselves. The agencies that they have chosen for their performance art are telling, are they not? The Department of Education, a $270 billion woke monstrosity that has presided over the steady and unrelenting decline of public education. And USAID, a $50 billion anti-American purveyor of ideology so toxic that even the bureaucrats who work there knew they had to hide their programs so that they could continue to fund such things as transgender comic books in Peru, so-called sex change operations in Guatemala, and anti-Israeli rappers. By now, everyone has heard about the crazy things USAID and other bloated and unnecessary bureaucracies have spent our money on, and we are rightly infuriated. But there is more to this story than bureaucrats and leftists attempting to out-crazy each other, and it is critical that we understand the full picture, in part to ensure accountability, but to also understand how these actions, this overwhelming misdirection of assets, this radical anti-humanist agenda has weakened us here at home and allowed our so-called political leaders to ignore their primary responsibility to our citizens. In short, this obsession with pushing the woke agenda has real-world consequences and has caused real-life suffering. The way that I often describe it is that a government that does things that it should not be doing becomes incapable of doing those things that it should. What we can describe as the social and economic reality of opportunity costs. And it is this phenomena that I, as the chairwoman of the House Anti-Woke Caucus, want to make sure people understand. We are not just dealing with stupid comic books and radical anti-American leftist policies. We are also dealing with an obsession that has become so all-consuming to those on the other side that the toll in human suffering and property destruction cannot be ignored. As a devastating example, let's look at the recent California wildfires. The cause and magnitude of those fires cannot be written off as an act of nature, because that is not what happened. Rather, a substantial number of fires in California are started by arsonists and homeless encampments. And that appears to be the case in terms of this recent conflagration. Even setting aside the cause of the fires, however, this catastrophe was years in the making, with resource management, overregulation, and failed water policies all finding their roots in a fixation on climate change and global warming. Ah, yes, with Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass deciding that the threat of a 1 to 2 degree change in temperatures 100 years from now warrants whatever suffering we may come about today. Let's start with the radical environmentalist decisions for the last several decades to fight every effort to undertake proper, effective, and safe forest and range management practices and to implement better fire protection policies. In fact, one such organization fought to block a wildfire prevention project near the Pacific Palisades to protect a shrub called the Bronton's milk vetch. We can thank this group for their efforts to protect this shrub, although such protections were clearly only transitory since they also burned in the November fires. But this is not an isolated situation, and we have watched it play out year after year in Western states, as the so-called experts and environmentalists would rather our forests, our prairies, and our homes burn to the ground than allow us to implement common sense and much-needed treatment techniques to prevent these catastrophes from happening in the first place. Did you know that in 2020, Gavin Newsom vetoed a fire mitigation bill that had been passed by both houses of the Democrat-controlled California legislature? That bill provided funding for vegetation management to maintain defensible space around structures, reduce flammable material, reduce fire risk, and harden evacuation routes. In his veto message, Governor Newsom exposed his moral corruption by stating that any efforts to fireproof California could not take precedence over his plan to replace single-family homes with affordable housing and multifamily units. I could spend hours regaling you with the many ways in which radical environmentalism and the fear-mongering surrounding our ever-changing and healthy climate has destroyed our natural and human environment, but I think you get the gist. In short, in the name of climate change, in the name of our environment, and in an effort to burnish their elitist bona fides, these people have largely destroyed the very things that they claim to hold dear, with their policies and actions being responsible for spewing more carbon and pollutants into the atmosphere than our collective humanity could in hundreds of years. And that is why we must expose them for the frauds that they are. Charlatans who prove time and time again that they know nothing about the environment, climate, resource management, how to build strong, vibrant, and resilient communities, or human nature. But like so many dictators before them, believe that they are the experts who are entitled to micromanage our lives, mandate and restrict our mode of travel, control our food supply, and shove us into 15-minute cities and multifamily homes. Now, it is often easy to make fun of people like Gavin Newsom, Karen Bass, Kamala Harris, Al Gore, John Kerry, and others. But these people have caused and will continue to cause real human suffering unless we stop them. And one tool that we have is to expose the true cost of their woke ideology. But it isn't just failed environmental policies that are to blame. We must also call out the entire DEI industry as being one of the many culprits resulting in the death and destruction that we have suffered. First, as I mentioned earlier, California's wildfire problem is largely man-made, with the homeless population and arsonists being responsible for well over 50% of all of the fires. All in the name of being equitable and inclusive, you see, personal and community responsibility are relics of the past when it comes to modern day California. And nothing epitomizes that more than in allowing the homeless to literally run your cities into the ground and when they so choose to burn them down. Second, DEI is not only insidious because of what it means in practice, but in the fact that it allows politicians and bureaucrats to divert our precious where they should be focused to pet projects that have nothing to do with carrying out the functions of government. The stories from California are legion of millions of dollars being spent on DEI workshops and training, of hiring based on race, sex, sexual orientation, and intersectionality, rather than on whether the individual could physically do the job. And the outcome? Empty reservoirs, broken down fire trucks, air-sucking fire hydrants, no evacuation routes, and not enough firefighters. DEI is a disastrous concept in theory and wholly destructive in practice. It undermines faith in our institutions and allows unelected and unaccountable bureaucrats to redirect hundreds of billions of dollars into programs that we don't want, don't need, and that ultimately destroy everything that we hold dear. Fortunately, we now have a political leader in President Trump who understands how destructive these environmental policies have been to our communities and how insidious DEI policies are to our physical, mental, and financial well-being. Thank God, in other words, that we have finally awakened from this woke nightmare, and it is a new day in America. God bless CPAC, God bless President Trump, God bless our warriors who are fighting on behalf of all of us, and God bless America. Thank you very much.
Newsmax has been terrific.
President Trump is right. Millions are switching to Newsmax. It's the fastest growing streaming service in America. You don't need those woke streaming services anymore. Just get Newsmax Plus. Watch the best shows like Greg Kelly, Rob Schmidt, Greta Van Susteren, and Rob Finnerty.
Greg Kelly over at Newsmax. The Newsmax people have been really terrific.
Gain access to exclusive documentaries, series, and special briefings. It's free to start. So go to NewsmaxPlus.com now to sign up and watch Newsmax anytime, anywhere.
Welcome to CPAC. At Great American Media, we celebrate what matters most: faith, family, and country. Today, we invite you to experience storytelling that uplifts, inspires, and reflects the values we all cherish. PureFlix is your home for entertainment without compromise. With faith-driven movies and series, we bring you stories that strengthen hearts, uplift spirits, and honor what truly matters. And on Great American Family, where faith leads, where stories inspire. Welcome home. Whether it's Christmas all year long, heartfelt romances, or movies that bring families together, we are here to make you feel at home. In media, our foundation is quality. Our promise is to always deliver entertainment that aligns with your faith and values. Thank you for standing with us as we stand for faith, family, and country. Enjoy CPAC. And remember, when you choose Great American Media, you choose entertainment that lifts you up. Join us and experience the best in faith and family entertainment.
Hello, I'm Jim Paff, president of the Conservative Caucus. The Conservative Caucus has been winning battles in Congress for all 50 years of its existence. In fact, we're the oldest conservative grassroots organization in America. We helped re-elect President Trump and win the Senate. And with your help, we will continue to advance President Trump's MAGA agenda. Join the team to help Trump make America great again. Go to theconservativecaucus.org and sign up now.
Every institution today is under attack. The home, the church, the government. And many people are asking, what is the truth? Jesus Christ claimed the ultimate truth. Are you willing to face the truth?
Do you think the MK Ultra project ever actually ended?
The Central Intelligence Agency is actively involved in mind manipulation.
We all answer to one God and one Savior, and He's there to change your life for the better.
Ladies and gentlemen, up next, an interview with Governor of Arkansas, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, hosted by CPAC Senior Fellow, Mercedes Schlapp.
Hi. Oh, come on, your favorite governor, let's go. Okay, we're waking up here. All right, I think Governor Sanders, Sarah, Sarita, my sweet Sarah. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to have Sarah with us. We are in countdown mode right now because guess who's coming? Who's going to close out CPAC?
I mean, just a slightly well-known individual, maybe the most popular human on the face of the planet right now. So, America's favorite president.
That's right, President Trump. Are you all excited? So this is such a blessing for me. Sarah and I worked together at the White House for several years. And I mean, Sarah, seriously, what you have accomplished is amazing. And we're so proud of you. Just to start right there. We were trying to raise our kids during that time.
Trying being the key word there. We were trying to raise our kids, and somehow they turned out amazing.
Yeah. Which says a lot, really, truly. They were all in the backstage. Sarah brought her daughter Scarlett with my girls, and they were doing the whole posing of taking pictures together. We're like, this is the next generation of leadership, seriously. But let's get to it. Okay, so you were at the National Governors Association dinner, and President Trump had this interesting exchange with the governor from Maine. We're all in the family here. Tell us what happened.
Well, I think it was classic Donald Trump. If he doesn't like something, he's going to call it out. I think it's one of the things that has made him so incredibly popular. And one of the reasons he's been able to get so much done is because he doesn't care who's in the room, what it looks like. He's going to tell you exactly what he thinks in that moment. And that's what he did. And frankly, he's on the right side. I'm so tired of hearing the left say that they care about women when they can't even tell you what a woman is. And we finally have a president who will stand up for women and fight back. And I think that it's a great thing to see Donald Trump being the one to sign executive orders that defend and define what a man and what a woman are, which it's sad that we have to do that, but also as a mom of a daughter that is a 12-year-old volleyball player, that we have somebody that's saying, no, we're not going to let men play girls' sports. And Donald Trump is doing that, and I think he's right to call people out who are on the wrong side.
So we have a rating system that we rate at CPAC, all the state legislatures, all the governors, all the federal legislators as well. Governor Sanders has ranked the top conservative governor in America. The top, number one. And I know partly is because we're related, but Sarah, tell us about, you're in the middle of the legislative session. You have so much going on. You've been in office now. And what are you planning to accomplish this legislative session? What do you think the people of Arkansas really want and what they're focused on?
We're working on that, and the President Trump is very quick to remind us on that every time I see him. But what we've really focused on is bringing conservative principles back, and everything from opening up universal school choice. We were one of the first states in the country to do that. Starting next semester, every single student in Arkansas will be able to choose where they go to school, and their parents will be empowered to make that decision. And I'm really proud we were one of the leaders of that. We've cut taxes 3 times in the state of Arkansas in just 2 years, now making us competitive with every other state in the region. We are getting indoctrination, not just out of our K through 12, but also out of higher education. And we don't care if you're tenured or not. That is one of the big pieces of legislation that we have going through this cycle. We're also removing cell phones from the classroom, and I signed legislation this week. Bell to bell, no cell, and really proud of what we're doing for young people, for parents, for families, and we're going to continue fighting and making Arkansas the most conservative state in the country.
And people are moving in. It is becoming a popular destination. I mean, walk us through why your state, and we always talk about these federal elections, and obviously having President Trump in office is such a critical win. But these states are just as critical as well, because we meet people from California who talk about how horrific it is to live under Democrat oppression. Let's just call it what it is. And here we have a perfect example of what you're doing in Arkansas to be that blueprint for other states. What's your advice to other governors, especially Republican governors, that are trying to do the same? And we talk about conservative principles, but these are American principles of being pro-family, pro-economic prosperity, pro-safety.
Well, one of the big differences now is we actually have a partner in the White House instead of somebody we have to fight every single day. I got to see Lee Zeldin yesterday. He's the new head of the EPA. I said, I'm just glad we have somebody there that we don't have to sue every single week, and we can actually work with to get things done. Over the last several years, Republican governors are the ones who have held the line. While Washington was a completely broken, dysfunctional mess, Republican governors are the ones who stepped up and worked on securing the border. We sent Arkansas Guard to the border 2 separate occasions over the last couple of years because Joe Biden wouldn't get the job done. Now we have a partner in Donald Trump who's not going to just be a partner, but he's going to be a leader. He's going to be the #1 fighter, pushing back on some of the crazy wokeness that we have seen the left try to impose on our families, on our schools, on our businesses. And Republican governors are going to be right there with him. We're going to make sure that our schools do not become indoctrination factories for the left. We're going to make sure that you can run your business the way that you want to, and that you can raise your kids the way that you want to, as it was intended in this country. And I'm proud of the work we've been able to do. Arkansas is now the #1 state in the country that people are moving to. It's not Texas, it's not Florida, it's not Virginia, it's Arkansas. So if you don't live there yet, we're ready for you to move and call that your home. We're the #1 state for economic growth. We're the lowest cost of living. We are booming on all fronts, and it's because we're implementing good conservative policy that lets you live your life without constant government intrusion. And that's something we're proud of and something we're going to continue to do in our home state.
Gosh, wouldn't she make a great vice presidential pick in 2028? I think so. I do. Sorry, Sarah, you don't have to respond to that. Okay.
I'm not. Very happy to be in Arkansas.
Okay, maternal health, you're providing funding. I really want you to talk about this problem this crisis you discovered in your state, how you're solving it, because it's not only impacting states like Arkansas, but other states as well in the South. Walk us through what you're doing there.
You know, one of the things that I think is so important for the pro-life community is that we don't just focus on the baby when they're in the womb, but it's what does that look like after, and making sure that we are actually fighting for kids every single day. And that's something that's really important in our state. We had about 10% of moms in Arkansas that were never seeing a doctor until they were in labor. That's unacceptable. Access to care, they just weren't taking advantage of it. We know that healthy moms make healthy babies, so we've invested heavily in making sure that those women get the care that they not only need and deserve, but they know that their life and their child's life has value. And it's something that we want to protect at every single stage. And so we're investing heavily in the maternal health problem in Arkansas, and something that we're going to expect to see a dramatic impact and dramatic results just in a short amount of time.
So we've seen President Trump right now, where he's been in office for 32 days. It feels like it's been like 10 years that he's been in office. It's so remarkable to watch the amount of work he's been able to accomplish. Now, as us, the Trump 45ers, is that what we are?
Yeah.
Okay.
Makes us sound older
Makes
than we
us
are,
sound
though.
so old. Help me figure out here. Like, I'm watching this and going, I'm amazed. It is so different from what our experience was at the time. Give us of what you're seeing, and also what advice you're giving to this next administration right now.
Look, I can't say enough good things about the president and his team and what they're doing. You know, we used to joke that you aged in dog years during the first administration. Then they saw what life was like under a Trump administration, and they had a chance to see what life was like without Trump in the White House. And they didn't like it very much. And so now that he's back, people want to see him doing exactly what he talked about on the campaign trail. They want a strong economy. They want somebody who will secure the border. They want somebody who's going to take China on, who's the first president in my lifetime that actually called China out and is holding their feet to the fire. I was the first governor in the country to kick China out of our state, off of our farmland, and impose a fine on them. We know that's popular. And it was because of Donald Trump that we were empowered to take those type of strong actions. We have a president who's going to make our allies actually respect us and our enemies fear us. It's a total opposite of what we saw over the course of the last 4 years. You know, you joke at the speed of which Trump is moving. They always have heard the moniker that we wish that government could move at the speed of business. Well, he's redefining that all over again. There's the speed of government, there's the speed of business, and now there's the speed of Trump, which is unlike anything I've ever seen. And he's doing so much so fast, they don't even know how or where to attack him this time. Yeah. And so I hope that he can keep up this pace. I've never seen anybody with the level of energy that he has. As you know well, it was not surprising that we could get a phone call from the president at midnight, 1 a.m., asking us to do a laundry list of things and then calling us back a couple of hours later at 4 or 5 in the morning and saying, did you get all that done? I'm like, no, I didn't. But he doesn't sleep. He doesn't expect anybody else to sleep either. And he has he's almost twice my age and he has twice my energy. But it's because he loves this country. And he did not need to run and take this job on, but America needed him to be willing to do it. And anyone else that would have gone through the level of intense criticism and the attacks, 2 assassination attempts on his life, would have given up. But this is a president who I think that only emboldens him more. The more they come after him, the stronger and tougher he gets, and the more he comes back ready to deliver for the American people. And I love getting to see him with this mandate and with this level of excitement for his presidency, because he deserved it the first time and he didn't get it. And now he's getting it and he's winning. And because he is, America's winning.
So I love always getting the insider information. So there would be times, this is so funny, we'd literally our first meeting was like 7 o'clock in the morning. I can't even remember. It was so early in the morning. We're half asleep. And before you know it, they'll be like, President Trump had tweeted something out at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. So we would all look at Sarah and we'd be like, okay, Sarah, this is what he said. What are our talking points? I mean, that's how it was. I mean, it was so really learning on the job too. So now that you've transitioned from being, the president's spokesperson, the press secretary at the White House, into being the governor of a state, how does that feel? I mean, how is it so different?
It's really different when you're the one sitting in the chair and it's your name on the paper to sign legislation or an executive order. There's a different weight and responsibility that comes with that. But I could not be more thankful for the experience that I had in the White House, because I learned so much from the president. One, never back down, never stop fighting, and always do what you think is right. And the rest of it works itself out pretty well. And that experience, I think, gave me such great perspective. And one of the most important things and takeaways was that I didn't need the outsiders to define me. In those moments, the most difficult days that we had in the White House, of which there were many, we didn't need the outside world to define us. We had a creator who had already done that, who had given my life meaning and purpose. Amen. And my job is to believe that and try to live up to the path that he laid for me. And if I do that, the rest of it, whether it's in the White House, my house, or the governor's mansion, gets really simple after that. And so proud of what we've been able to do, and glad that I got to do it alongside some of the most amazing people on the planet.
You're going to make me cry. Sarah would get up every time we'd go into her office. She would have her scripture open every day. Every day. It's what guided you every day.
Otherwise, I'm not sure we would have survived.
I would agree. And I'd come in with my holy water, the Protestant, the Catholic, we're all in it together, okay? So I just want to get this question in real quick, because, Doge has been a phenomenon. It's been a phenomenon in the federal government, but you have like pre-Doge.
We started something we called Arkansas Forward. It was a project to go in, look at government efficiency, waste, fraud, and abuse. Just within the first 6 months, we've already identified at least $300 million in savings, which is big for Arkansas. Our budget's $6 billion. And so for us to identify that level of savings already that we're implementing, and some of it was as basic as getting rid of old phone and fax lines that haven't been in use in years. We will now save the state of Arkansas $1 million a year, just eliminating things like that. If we can do that on an Arkansas small state level, I can't imagine what they're going to continue to be able to uncover through Doge and the amount of savings and waste, fraud, and abuse they're going to be able to get rid of. It's an exciting thing to see.
So, Sarah, what inspires you every day?
My family. I have, my daughter's here, so I'll cry when I talk about my kids. I have the three most amazing kids, Scarlett, Huck, George. They're 12, 11, and 9. My husband is incredible. He has the patience of Job because he is married to me. And I know I'm not an easy personality, so
You're easier than you think. You're wonderful to work with.
but I have an incredible family that loves me no matter what, and my kids are perfect reminders of everything that's at stake, everything that's matters and is important in the job that I do. And I don't mean the job as governor. While that is a big role and one I love and I'm proud and honored to have, there's no more important and bigger task that I have than being a mom. And so I take that really serious and trying to do the best I can to deliver for my kids.
So my call to action to you all is that you pray for Governor Sanders and her family, because it's really hard to raise a family, be in the public eye, and do the incredible work that you do. And what is your call to action to our CPAC family?
To keep fighting. Without you showing up and cheering and championing not just the people that are running for office, but more importantly, what they stand for. Find people who love this country as much as you do, support them with everything you can, and keep showing up, because it makes a difference. Because there are moments where you're running for office or you're in office and you think you're all by yourself and nobody is there. And so when you look out and you see a room of people like this who love America as much as you do, it is a great reminder to keep fighting and not to let the naysayers get you down. So keep showing up, keep doing what you're doing. Thank you so much for being here.
Okay, we love our governor, Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders.
Tucked away in the Blue Ridge Mountains of Lynchburg, Virginia, you'll find us, Liberty University. Here, we pursue excellence in all of our academic endeavors, from anywhere. We fight for victory in our athletic programs and fan the flames with a mighty roar. We equip students with a Christ-centered perspective that changes lives. We are creators, problem solvers, and world changers. But above all of this, we are champions for Christ.
America is under attack. Our families are being crushed under the politics of a radical agenda. But moms have had enough. We are standing up and we are fighting back.
This is our battle. This battle is every bit as important as the Revolutionary War because we fight for the same thing.
Moms for America is a national movement of moms reclaiming our culture for truth, family, freedom, and the Constitution.
I think Moms for America is exactly on track and is doing the right thing for the future of our country and our children.
Like, Moms for America is going at the heart of the issue.
I want to go on the record and say I'm for moms, I'm for America, and I'm especially for Moms for America.
But I am honored to join Moms for America today as we speak out against the horrific mandates.
With a national network of over 500,000 mothers, Moms for America is one of the fastest growing movements of women in the country.
The most dangerous place in all of nature is between a mama bear and her baby cub.
We are the change. No matter what, no matter where, and no matter how difficult the obstacles are that are facing us and our families, we will not give up and we will not give in.
So if not now, then when? If not you, then who?
Welcome to the Homeland Revolution.
The steal was stopped on Election Day, I think in no small part thanks to Judicial Watch's heavy lifting. In just the last year and a half or two, we've cleaned up 4 million dirty names from the rolls. We also got that huge Fifth Circuit ruling that found counting ballots received after Election Day is unlawful. You can be sure that all helped ensure cleaner elections on Election Day, but there's more work to be done, so be sure to support Judicial Watch's election integrity work.
Every institution today is under attack. The home, the church, the government. And many people are asking, what is the truth? Jesus Christ claimed to be ultimate truth. Are you willing to face the truth?
Do you think the MK Ultra project ever actually ended?
The Central Intelligence Agency is actively involved in mind manipulation.
We all answer to one God and one Savior, and He's there to change your life for the better.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the President of Argentina, Javier Milei.
Hola a todos. Es una gran alegría para mí estar nuevamente en los Estados Unidos y es un honor poder hablar ante todos ustedes hoy. Muchas gracias a los presentes y especialmente gracias a CPAC, que siempre ha tenido una consideración especial conmigo. Gracias, Matt. Gracias, Mercy. Hace apenas un mes dije en el foro de Davos que creo que estamos atravesando un punto de inflexión en nuestra historia. La historia transcurre en fases o etapas, momentos en donde el espíritu de la idea se materializa en una persona o en un grupo de personas, a veces cercana, a veces con kilómetros de distancia entre ellos, pero con un hilo conductor invisible que si se pudiera observar, presumo sería muy similar a las imágenes que observamos de las redes neuronales del cerebro humano. Hoy estamos precisamente en uno de esos momentos en los que la historia, con H mayúscula, está cambiando su curso. Estamos viendo en tiempo real el destino del mundo bifurcarse hacia un nuevo camino, distinto del lugar al que nos estaban llevando las élites y el establishment político de nuestros países. De la misma manera que en la década del 30 se podía vislumbrar que la llama de la libertad se estaba apagando y que comenzaba un nuevo cambio de servidumbre para la humanidad, hoy finalmente podemos decir que la era del Estado omnipresente ha terminado. Hoy somos testigos de un momento en el que la larga marcha del Estado sobre el individuo está llegando a su fin. Me refiero, por supuesto, al colapso del modelo colectivista y el amanecer de una nueva era de libertad. Nos hemos preparado para este momento y creo que genuinamente que estamos dando una batalla crucial para el futuro de la humanidad. Pero como siempre digo, solo se puede obrar de forma eficaz si el diagnóstico desde el que uno parte es el correcto. Hay que entender dónde estamos parados y a qué nos enfrentamos para poder saber cómo llegar a donde queremos. A lo largo de todo el mundo, las sociedades occidentales se enfrentan a un mismo problema y a un mismo enemigo. Una clase política que extrae cada vez más recursos de los ciudadanos a través de impuestos, con el fin de implementar un modelo de expansión estatal ilimitada. Una clase política con complejo de Dios que pretende regular cada aspecto de la vida de la gente, haciendo honor a una de las máximas del fascismo de Benito Mussolini: dentro del Estado todo, fuera del Estado nada y nada contra el Estado. Hemos llamado a esta clase política el Partido del Estado, una casta extendida cuyos miembros, más allá de diferencias superficiales, comparten la idea fundamental del avance del Estado sobre la sociedad. Son todos aquellos que por interés económico o convicción ideológica o incluso cierto idealismo ingenuo trabajan para los intereses del Estado. Los medios de comunicación tradicionales o ligas y media, la oligarquía sindical, los empresarios prebendarios, los burócratas permanentes no electos y en consecuencia intrínsecamente irresponsables, las organizaciones mal llamadas no gubernamentales que hacen el trabajo sucio de los políticos, las instituciones académicas que proveen el marco teórico para la expansión estatal, los organismos supranacionales y todos los que de alguna manera pertenecen a la gran secta del colectivismo mundial. Y por supuesto, esto incluye a los partidos políticos tradicionales, que sin importar su color, coinciden en la tesis fundamental que más Estado siempre es mejor. En Argentina, por ejemplo, teníamos un sistema político compuesto por unas 50 sombras de socialismo. En Estados Unidos existía la ilusión de bipartidismo de un partido demócrata que marcaba la agenda y un partido republicano incapaz de enfrentarlo hasta la llegada del presidente Donald Trump. ¡Viva! Curiosamente, el mío lo van a tener que esperar hasta el final. Curiosamente, el presidente Trump es un outsider, igual que yo, porque la tarea que tenemos por delante, el desafío que tenemos por delante, no es para políticos tradicionales que han vivido toda su vida del sistema. Es para gente que no le debe nada a nadie, que no está comprometida por los vicios del sistema y que sabe que es más importante el cambio que el poder por el poder mismo. En el establishment político de nuestras dos naciones existía una mentalidad más o menos explícita de que el avance del Estado equivalía a avance de la democracia, que cada conquista del Estado implicaba un acto de justicia social ante las supuestas injusticias de la libertad, que el rol del Estado era llevarnos a una utopía igualatoria mediante la creación sistemática de supuestos nuevos derechos que obviamente debían ser financiados por los pagadores de impuestos. Es justamente en el centro de este esquema que se encuentran los políticos, los principales beneficiarios de este modelo de expansión ilimitada del Estado, esos que hacen de vivir de otros por la fuerza un estilo de vida, depositarios de poderes y privilegios que serán la envidia de cualquier monarca de la historia. No importan las peleas televisivas ni las supuestas diferencias partidarias, todos trabajan para el mismo Dios, el siniestro, y su manifestación en la tierra, el leviatán del que hablaba Hobbes. Por eso, salvando algunas particularidades propias de cada nación, todos los que estamos aquí tenemos una misma misión: quitar el poder al partido del Estado y devolvérselo a la sociedad. Es decir, como decía Albert Nock, que describió en su libro En nuestro enemigo el Estado, que el poder social fue progresivamente arrebatado y trasladado al Estado por la fuerza. Nuestro objetivo es hacer el camino inverso, aumentar el poder del ciudadano y quitarle el poder al Estado. Por su... ¡Afuera! Me too. Sorry. She's my girlfriend. Again, por supuesto, no puede hacerse gestionando mejor el Estado tal cual existe o simplemente administrando correctamente los recursos de que dispone, sino que el único camino racional es achicar el Estado hasta su mínima expresión posible. Reducir el tamaño del Estado es en sí mismo un acto de justicia, porque cada erogación del Estado es una sustracción del pagador de impuestos. Desde nuestro punto de vista, el único Estado aceptable es el Estado más chico posible para devolverle al ciudadano lo que es suyo. Por eso, todas las atribuciones que no tengan que ver directamente con la protección de los 3 derechos fundamentales, que son el derecho a la vida, a la libertad y a la propiedad privada, deben volver a su origen, los individuos asociados de forma voluntaria sin intromisión del Estado. Esto debe ser así porque, a diferencia de la economía, el poder es un juego de suma cero. Todo el poder que tenga el Estado necesariamente no puede obtenerlo al mismo tiempo la sociedad. Por eso no creemos en soluciones parciales o compromisos de centro. Sabemos que hacer las cosas a medias es una invitación al regreso del Estado, que como un cáncer metastásico solo sabe expandirse y debe ser obligado activamente a retroceder. No sirve intentar alcanzar un justo medio. Todo lo que exceda su función esencial debe ser definitivamente quitado de su órbita o más temprano que tarde volverá a usurpar lo que no le pertenece. Sabemos que no es una tarea fácil. El Estado moderno tiene herramientas de sobras que han crecido en sofisticación con el paso del tiempo. No estamos hablando de un Estado obvio como el fascista o el comunista, sino de un Estado sutil e insidioso que avanza sobre el individuo a través del arte, de la propaganda y la infiltración cultural. O al menos así era hasta hace poco, ya que le resulta cada vez más difícil disimular su carácter totalitario. Hemos visto, por citar solo un ejemplo, que en ciertos países de Europa ciudadanos están siendo arrestados por expresarse en redes sociales. Pero en términos más generales, hablo de la financiación de la academia, incentivando la elaboración de estudios que justifiquen la implementación de políticas públicas intervencionistas y de la compra encubierta de medios de comunicación mediante. Hablo de las múltiples ONGs que viven de nuestros impuestos, de los subsidios a la cultura para producir propaganda. Y aquí en Estados Unidos, por supuesto, el escándalo de USAID, que destinaba millones de dólares de los pagadores de impuestos a financiar desde revistas y canales de televisión a fraudes electorales como en Brasil, o gobiernos con aspiraciones discriminatorias como el de Sudáfrica. Y como decía, gobiernos con aspiraciones discriminatorias como el sudafricano, entre tantas otras aberraciones, incluyendo la agenda de la paranoia climática, los excesos de la ideología de género y la investigación que derivó la creación del virus del COVID-19. Sin embargo, lo único que realmente logra este mecanismo de bajada de línea globalista es transferir riqueza de la clase baja de un país rico a la clase alta de un país pobre. En pocas palabras, hablo de una red global de influencia y formación de opinión pagada con los impuestos de los ciudadanos, un aparato de propaganda sin precedentes en la historia humana, quizás el escándalo político más grande que hayamos visto. Y luego esos mismos hipócritas acusan a Elon Musk de interferir en las elecciones de otros países. Claramente su descaro es tan grande como sus aspiraciones totalitarias. Y si ese nivel de colectivismo en sangre hubiera tenido soluciones, sus apologistas tendrían al menos algo a lo cual aferrarse, pero ni eso. Esa fue históricamente la excusa de los estatistas del pasado, que la prosperidad llegaría mediante la administración racional de recursos por parte del Estado, recursos que el sector privado era incapaz de aprovechar. Pregunta, ¿y acaso quién maneja el sector público? ¿No son humanos? Sin embargo, hemos sido testigos de que a mayor expansión estatal, peor es la calidad de vida de la gente. No por nada Hayek dedicó su último libro a explicar este fenómeno, al cual llamó la fatal arrogancia. Pero esto no es accidental. Más allá de su evidente incompetencia, la clase política no se dedica a solucionar problemas. Al fin y al cabo, un problema solucionado es un área de la que el Estado debe retirarse. Al contrario, la clase política se dedica a perpetuar los problemas y así vivir de ellos para siempre. Por eso viven creando problemas nuevos, instalándolos desde sus aparatos de propaganda para luego ofrecer a sí mismos como solución. ¿Y en qué consiste esa solución? En la implementación de regulaciones que causan todavía más problemas a ser solucionados por más regulaciones. En medicina se usa el término iatrogenia para referirse al daño que sufre un paciente como consecuencia de la atención médica. Podría decirse entonces que el régimen estatista consiste en la iatrogenia como política de Estado. O sea, es el médico que se enriquece a base del deterioro progresivo e intencional de sus pacientes. Con el modelo del Estado presente, el Estado te quiebra las piernas para después venderte las muletas como un sobreprecio y obligarte a agradecerle, y te persigue si no lo haces. Como contrapunto, dicen algunos testimonios que en la medicina tradicional china, el médico familiar cobraba honorarios de forma constante por mantener a la familia sana. O sea, según la leyenda, cuando un miembro enfermaba, el médico dejaba de percibir los honorarios, viéndose incentivado a resolver la enfermedad de una forma eficiente y rápida. Imagínense tan solo pudiera funcionar así el Estado. Cuánta miseria nos hubiéramos ahorrado. Hoy, a quienes queremos desmantelar este sistema demencial, nos llaman antidemocráticos. Pero nuevamente, esta es una tergiversación de las palabras, algo muy propio de la izquierda, para variar. Ellos no le llaman democracia al gobierno del pueblo, sino al paradigma de expansión total estatal ilimitada que ellos mismos administran. Para ellos, la democracia existe si y únicamente si ganan los que ellos quieren, para poder someter a la gente a sus caprichos. Pero cuando la minoría electoral son ellos, la elección de la mayoría pasa a ser autoritarismo. De hecho, muchos de los que nos acusan de antidemocráticos ni siquiera fueron electos. Toman decisiones que afectan a miles de millones de personas alrededor del mundo y sin embargo nadie los conoce. No son responsables ante nadie más que sí mismos y no pueden ser echados por el voto popular. Y así y todo vienen a hablarnos de democracia. En fin, dicen que Trump y yo somos un peligro para la democracia, pero en realidad están diciendo que somos un peligro para ellos. Somos un peligro para el partido del Estado, para quienes viven de su expansión ilimitada, para quienes quieren un individuo dependiente y sometido a sus caprichos regulatorios. Y ¿saben qué? Tienen razón, somos su peor pesadilla. Venimos por sus privilegios, habiendo sido elegidos por la mayoría de cada uno de nuestros pueblos, con el mandato claro de quitarles un poder que no les pertenece. Hoy nuestros países, Argentina y Estados Unidos, necesitan pasar por una segunda independencia. La primera nos liberó del poder de las monarquías europeas. La segunda nos liberará de la tiranía del partido del Estado. Por eso hemos puesto tanto esfuerzo en identificarlo, porque no se puede luchar contra lo que no se conoce. Y tener un enemigo bien definido es un aspecto fundamental de nuestra batalla cultural. Ahora ya lo conocemos, le hemos ganado en las elecciones y estamos en proceso de desarmar su leviatán, que es una herramienta de opresión perpetua. No tenemos ninguna fórmula secreta, solo conocer la historia humana y saber qué es lo que ha funcionado y qué no. Por eso, con humildad, quiero reflexionar un poco sobre cómo venimos llevando adelante esta batalla. Nosotros trabajamos con firmeza y de frente, sin dar lugar a compromisos. Defendemos un conjunto de valores que no estamos dispuestos a negociar, así como ellos no han estado dispuestos a negociar a la hora de quitarnos nuestra libertad. Lo que ellos impusieron sin nuestro consentimiento está siendo eliminado sin el consentimiento de ellos. Por eso hemos pasado la motosierra por los sectores y atribuciones del Estado que consideramos superfluos, redundantes, innecesarios o directamente perniciosos para la sociedad. Y más aún, este año emprenderemos la fase 2 de este proceso, que hemos bautizado como la motosierra profunda, para continuar achicando el Estado, devolviéndole a la gente la riqueza que jamás debió habérsele sido arrebatada. Lo interesante es que este proceso de justicia tiene un correlato político, porque por su naturaleza el partido del Estado se financió históricamente de gasto público mal asignado y de negocios turbios con el Estado. Por eso, achicar el Estado es cortarle la manguera a los clientes del Estado enquistado en él, que ejercían un feroz resistencia al cambio, valiéndose el dinero de los pagadores de impuestos para mantenernos subyugados. Nuestro método es similar al de nuestro querido amigo Elon Musk: revisar oficina por oficina, conservar lo que sirve y funciona y descartar el resto. Por eso le obsequié una motosierra. Con nosotros nadie que no pueda justificar el costo de su salario en impuestos está a salvo. Muchos de ellos tendrán que volver al sector privado y ganarse la vida ofreciendo sus bienes y servicios en el mercado, tal como los pagadores de impuestos de los que han vivido tantos años. Mi más sentido pésame a los políticos que creyeron que este momento nunca llegaría y no están preparados, porque se van a llevar un baldazo de agua fría. Por suerte para ellos, en toda desgracia hay una oportunidad. Y debido a nuestro avance desregulador, los salarios del sector privado seguirán subiendo, por lo que si hacen las cosas bien, podrán ser parte del progreso, pero lejos de la casta estatal. Como ya he dicho, esto no es una tarea sencilla. Aquí en Estados Unidos, burócratas rebeldes han intentado sabotear el trabajo del Departamento de Eficiencia Gubernamental y están recurriendo a mecanismos burocráticos ilegales para intentar bloquear cualquier reforma, lo cual también sucede en nuestro país y es algo con lo que debemos luchar día a día. Pero nada de eso nos ha tomado por sorpresa. Somos conscientes de que van a hacer lo posible por detener este cambio, sin importar el daño resultante. Si tienen que destruir el mundo para conservar sus privilegios, lo van a hacer. Y nosotros vamos a seguir luchando. Pero hoy el problema se extiende más allá de las penurias a las cuales el modelo del Estado presente ha sometido a cada una de nuestras naciones individualmente, porque la decadencia de nuestros gobiernos durante la historia reciente a lo largo y a lo ancho de Occidente no solo empobreció material y espiritualmente a nuestros propios ciudadanos, también nos debilitó política, económica, cultural y socialmente ante el enemigo externo. Nos volvió moralmente débiles y nos hizo vulnerables ante las peores expresiones de la barbarie, los peores enemigos de la libertad. Y a ellos no se les puede dar un centímetro, porque cuando huelen sangre avanzan envalentonados y sin piedad. Esto quedó demostrado durante los cobardes ataques perpetuados el 7 de octubre de 2023 en Israel, que costaron más de 1.000 inocentes y la captura de 251 personas. Esta semana Israel recibió los cuerpos sin vida de la familia Vivas, que permanecían secuestrados por el régimen terrorista y asesino de Hamas, entre los cuales se encuentra una madre y sus 2 hijos, un niño de 4 años y un bebé de tan solo 9 meses. Es tan inescrupuloso y sanguinario este régimen que, en el último gesto canallesco, no tuvieron mejor idea que exhibir burdamente sus ataúdes ante el vitoreo de una multitud sin el más mínimo respeto. Esto es lo que está en juego y no podemos darnos el lujo de fallar. Por eso es fundamental que las naciones que hemos abrazado las ideas de la libertad permanezcamos unidas y colaboremos unas con otras. Debemos formar una alianza de naciones libres, porque como ya he dicho en otra ocasión, el mal organizado solo puede ser vencido por el bien organizado. Solo mediante esta internacional de derecha podremos ponerle un fin a la casta política a la que nos enfrentamos, que está hundiendo a Occidente en la más oscura profundidad, y recuperar el ímpetu para proteger a las fuerzas despóticas que nos quieren subyugados. Por eso quiero también aprovechar para anunciar que Argentina quiere ser el primer país del mundo en sumarse a este acuerdo de reciprocidad que pide la administración Trump en materia comercial. Si no estuviéramos restringidos por el Mercosur, la Argentina ya estaría trabajando en un acuerdo de libre comercio con los Estados Unidos que sea mutuamente beneficioso y que no cargue injustamente sobre las espaldas de los productores argentinos, pero tampoco sobre los de los americanos. Esto es así porque solo trabajando juntos aquellos que queremos construir un mundo libre podremos salir adelante. Solo así podremos salir de la pesadilla del Estado omnipresente y así poder seguir haciendo lo que sabemos hacer como Occidente, poner a prueba los límites de lo posible, confiando en la creatividad de la sociedad y no en la discrecionalidad estéril de los burócratas. Solo así podremos retornar nuestro camino de grandeza como civilización, haciendo honor a nuestros antepasados que dieron la vida por ver un mundo libre y una humanidad próspera. Solo así, finalmente, podremos reencontrarnos con nosotros mismos y volver a crear en aquello que nos hizo grande como civilización. Que Dios bendiga a la República Argentina, que Dios bendiga a los Estados Unidos y que las fuerzas del cielo nos acompañen. ¡Viva la libertad, carajo!
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome White House Deputy Chief of Staff, Stephen Miller.
CPAC! Who is ready in just a few short hours to hear from the man himself, our 47th president, Donald J. Trump? My friends, it has been a long road, has it not? It's been a long road. In these last 4 years, we felt every single painful minute. But nothing, my friends, is sweeter or more extraordinary than victory. Who here has enjoyed the last 30 days of America's new golden age? And who here has been filled with pride and excitement in watching President Trump install the most extraordinary cabinet and team any of us has ever seen? Our new Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth. Our new Secretary of Health and Human Services, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Secretary of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem. Secretary of State, Marco Rubio. And of course, we have the Department of Government Efficiency, Elon Musk. White House Chief of Staff, Susie Wiles. And perhaps the most exciting of all is the fact that every single day, the entire White House staff, the entire administration, the entire cabinet, on behalf of President Trump and his extraordinary leadership, is getting the lies out of our schools, the men out of women's sports, the poison out of our foods, the woke out of our military, the predators off our streets, and the illegal aliens the hell out of our country. It's happening It is happening every day under President Trump. He is saying hell no to DEI. He is saying hell no to CRT. He is saying hell no to the indoctrination of our children. And is saying hell yes to the idea that America belongs to Americans. A historic slate of executive orders have been issued by President Trump to reclaim control of this government, to reclaim control of our destiny, to reclaim control of our future, and to restore the idea that under a democracy, the entire federal bureaucracy works for President Trump and not the other way around. He is the elected head of our government. And to all the people in the media, all the people on the radical left, all the people in the Democratic Party screaming about democracy, Donald Trump is the one who is saving democracy. Donald Trump is the one who is saving our Constitution. Donald Trump is the one who is saving America. And any federal bureaucrat who defies the lawful orders of this president will be fired. President Trump will ensure that whether you work at the FBI, whether you work at the CIA, whether you work at the Department of Homeland Security, the Department of Justice, the Department of Health and Human Services, career civil servants, also known as bureaucrats, work for the American people, and they work for the president the American people elected. They do not set their own agenda. They do not write their own rules. They do not work for themselves. They work for each and every one of you. You pay their salaries. You pay for the buildings they work in. You pay for every single thing they do. And if they are not following the laws, the Constitution, and the President of the United States, then they will find a new career. By the way, speaking of the FBI, who here is thrilled about Kash Patel? Let us not forget what President Trump endured in order to get to this point, to climb to the top of that Everest summit. Let us not forget what this whole movement has endured to reach this glorious day. 8 long years of weaponized government, the Russia hoax, the Ukraine hoax, one lie after another, one fraudulent impeachment after another, one hoax, one smear. Government weaponized at every level against democracy. Government weaponized at every level against the people. Democrat prosecutors, Democrat attorneys general, Democrat careers using their power to try to sabotage the democracy of this country, to try to keep President Trump off the ballot, to try to throw President Trump in jail, to try to arrest his aides and his supporters. An authoritarian movement in this country that has at every step tried to stop the workings of our democracy. And President Trump, on a field in Pennsylvania, nearly lost his life. And a few weeks later, another assassination plot. And let me ask you this question. When the lawsuits came against President Trump, when the lawfare came against President Trump, when the weaponized law enforcement and intelligence community came against President Trump, and when the bullets came against President Trump, did he falter? Did he back down? Did he yield? Did he surrender? Did he waver? Or did he stand up tall and strong and raise his fist into the air and say 3 immortal words, fight, fight, fight? Every day, that is what he is doing for you. He is fighting for your families. He is fighting for your children. He is fighting for your future. He is fighting for the fundamental idea that this country belongs not to the bureaucrats, not to the radical left communists, not to our foreign enemies, not to the criminal cartels, not to the criminal aliens. This country belongs to the law-abiding, patriotic, God-fearing American citizens. It belongs to the people in this room, and it belongs to the patriots watching at home today. I want you to know that every single morning President Trump wakes up and he thinks about you. And all day long, as he's signing executive orders, as he's meeting with world leaders, as he is orchestrating and directing the actions of this government, he is thinking about you and your future. President Trump's heart beats for the American people. President Trump's heart beats for the American Republic. And President Trump's heart is filled with nothing but love and loyalty for this republic. No president has done more in 30 days than President Trump. But we need you to stay in the fight. It is not enough to celebrate the victories we've achieved thus far. Every single day, we need, and President Trump, our president, needs you to be involved in forward, promoting every single victory, every success, every agenda item, being involved at every level of politics to keep driving forward. You think they're just going to give us our country back? You think they're just going to roll over, move out of the way, stop their scheming and their lying? Or do you think we are going to have to be on top of it every single day, focused every single day, driving forward every single day with unrelenting focus and passion? Because God gave us this country. Our founding fathers fought and died for this country. Generations of Americans have sacrificed and bled for this country. And we are not going to let the radical left, the communists, and the America haters take our country. It's not going to happen. Not now, not ever. But it's going to take everyone in this room to stand with President Trump each and every day, to stand every single day as President Trump boldly and bravely leads us into this golden age. And if you do that, I promise you, if you support this president and his leadership vision and his command and his inspiration, I promise you that if we follow President Trump, then this is what our future will look like. The best economy in history, the strongest border in history, the proudest and most patriotic children in history, and the single greatest future in history. And we will prove worthy of this moment. We will prove worthy of this period. We will prove worthy of this opportunity given to us by Almighty God. And I swear to you, and I promise you, and I pledge to you, it will all be worth it. And our children will grow up in a world where they can say, America is stronger, more incredible, more courageous, more united, more devoted, more committed, more incredible, more exceptional, prouder, and more amazing than it has ever been before, with the leadership and the vision and the drive of our President Donald J. Trump. So I ask you all to send a message right now to all the bureaucrats, to all the radical left commies, to the criminal aliens, the foreign gangs, the transnational terrorists, to everyone who threatens the future of this country. Do you stand with President Trump? Do you support President Trump? Do you believe in President Trump? And do you believe in the future of America? Thank you. God bless you, and God bless the United States. I love you.
The 47th President of the United States of America.
And, you know, I wouldn't say Fox has been exactly perfect. Fox has been a big difference of Fox between now and what it was 4 years ago, as you know. But we have others that come along and they're doing well, and Newsmax has been really good, and, you know, others are coming along, and people are seeing that they're watching these conservative networks.
President Trump is right. That's why millions of Americans are tuning into Newsmax for the real news they can trust.
Every institution today is under attack. The home, the church, the government. And many people are asking, what is the truth? Jesus Christ claimed the ultimate truth. Are you willing to face the truth?
Do you think the MK Ultra project ever actually ended?
The Central Intelligence Agency is actively involved in mind manipulation.
We all answer to one God and one Savior, and He's there to change your life for the better.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the great one and his boss. Please welcome from the Mark Levin Show, Mark Levin. And from America First Legal, Julie Strauss Levin.
Good morning, CPAC. How's everybody today? You're looking beautiful. And I tell you what, honey, I've been here several days. The energy and the excitement in this room is unbelievable. It's hard to believe that a year has gone. Thank God we lived with 4 years of a president who tried to shove down our throats Marxism and the moral decay of the fabric of our country. And here we are. Fast forward. We got President Donald J. Trump. We have 2 genders. We have DEI gone. We have equality over equity, border crossings down 93%. And we have a world stage where America is now respected and feared. So what do you think? Give me your 2 seconds on this.
Pretty good. Next question. How is everybody? Come on, let's go. It's exciting times, is it not? Well, I was thinking about something about this cabinet that we have now and thought to myself, we really have a cabinet that looks like America here. First of all, we have a president that knows how many grandchildren he has, and he loves every one of them. That helps. But let's look at this cabinet. We have the first, I'm sounding like a liberal. We have the first person of color as the FBI director. Have you heard them say that? No. First Cuban American as Secretary of State. The first gay Secretary of the Treasury. The first straight Secretary of Transportation in 4 years. We have one of the highest ranking African Americans, Elon Musk. We have the first hillbilly vice president, J.D. Vance. We have the first Secretary of Defense who is 114 years old. We have women in the cabinet who are proud to be called women and know what the hell a woman is. And then there's Donald Trump, who's on course of being the greatest president, if not modern history, all history. Look what he's done in 4 weeks.
Bravo, bravo. Give a round of applause.
And one other thing about Donald Trump. I told Donald Trump this at a Hanukkah party a few years ago. He's the greatest friend Israel's ever had. And so are you, by the way. And I want to thank you for that. He's the greatest friend Jews have ever had. So we have the first Jewish president in American history, too. Looks like America, that cabinet.
So speaking of that, first of all, I want to do a real sincere shout out to Mercy and Matt Schlapp, because their steadfast support of Israel is seen throughout this conference and day in and day out at CPAC. So we really need to thank them for that. It's really, really huge. You know, there used to be a time that depravity, murder, brutality was not acceptable to either party, when Republicans and Democrats alike were determined to eradicate the enemy. But here we are after an October 7, where we really learned what today's Democrat Party is. It's the Republican Party, it's conservatives, it's Jews, it's Christians who really care about what's going on in Israel and are appalled at the heinous acts that happened on October 7th. It's the Republicans, it's the conservatives, it's Donald J. Trump who have said Israel must conquer, Israel must win, Israel must do what it needs to do, not just to defend, but to go on offense and get rid of the enemy. So I just want to remind everybody that a year ago, I interviewed the father of a hostage victim at that time, Sagid Dekelhen, and here we are a year later, he's out. But honey, I want you to talk about what we saw the other day with 4 bodies coming out of Israel and the joy that was exhibited by the Gaza as these coffins were shown.
These bastards must be eradicated. It's that simple. You don't take a 9-month-old baby and a 4-year-old little boy and their mother and torture them, strangle those kids with your bare hands, chop up their bodies so nobody they think will notice. Remember when that mother was being pulled with her kids and she knew the people doing this are subhumans. They are rabid. They're not animals. Animals don't do this. Donald Trump knows this. These are the same people who attacked us on 9/11. These are the same people who decapitated 70 black Christians in a Congo church 48 hours ago. All of them. This is the enemy. It's not about land. It's not about borders. It's not about any of that. They seek to extinguish us. These Islamist terrorists. And we're going to have to extinguish them before they even have a shot at extinguishing us. Another thing. Constitutional crisis. Give me a break. The Democrat Party that hates the founders, that is pushing CRT, the 1619 Project, that tells us the Constitution's too old and too white. The Democrat Party that doesn't believe in the First, Second, Fifth, Sixth, Ninth, 10th, 14th Amendments. The Democrat Party that doesn't believe in separation of powers. We don't need lectures from them about the Constitution of the United States. That's number one. Number two, you activist judges, which are basically slip and fall, ambulance chasing lawyers in black robes. That's what they are. You either act like judges or get the hell off the bench. You are the people destroying the Constitution. The President of the United States has a right to make personnel decisions. He has a right to make budget decisions. He has a right to restructure the bureaucracy. You know, I happen to have here a copy of the Constitution.
Not that you need it. I mean, you really do pretty much.
This little baby sticks with me all the time. And let me tell you something. You know how many federal district judges are in this Constitution? None. They're created by Congress. That's right. So Congress has the power to make decisions over the executive branch. I thought it was separation of powers. Judges have the power to tell the CDC what to put on their website? How's that separation of powers? We have a big problem in this country. We can't decide if we're a constitutional republic, a federal republic, a representative republic, or a republic at all. And the truth is that if they have their way, the people who are worried about the Constitution, first of all, what Constitution are they worried about? The old Soviet Constitution? Because they're sure as hell not worried about our Constitution, that I can tell you. You can't be a Marxist, an Islamist, a radical leftist, and support the Constitution of the United States. You just can't. What Elon Musk, with the leadership of Donald Trump, have uncovered is a government within a government. It's not just waste, fraud, and abuse. It is a subterranean government that is spending trillions of dollars to push a radical left agenda. And we have no help from you in the media who are attacking the bloat and the spending and the waste and the criminality. Why the hell aren't you uncovering it? That's your damn job.
Well, and it's the same media that likes to avail itself of the First Amendment, right, when it's convenient. So,
oh, can I?
Yeah.
AP and the rest of you big corporate media, it says freedom of the press. It doesn't say freedom of the corporate press, okay? President of the United States can decide which press he wants in the press room and which he doesn't. Who died and gave you permanent seats in the press room? NBC and ABC and CBS. Besides, we don't get news from you people. I wrote a whole book on it called Unfreedom of the Press. You're Democrats, you're leftists, we know exactly who you are, what you're doing. You can do whatever you want on your own time. You can pretend you're in the press. We're not going to shut you down. We want you out there. Why? We want the schmucks out front so everybody can see what they look like. Well, that's okay.
And not only that, what happened on November 5th? I mean, November 5th proved that the American people are not fooled by the people back there, and they know and they're able to find the truth because Americans are smart and they know American values, they know right from wrong, and no media is going to change that. So, look, we don't have a lot of time.
By the way, I know I can't stop.
No, but wait. I'm going to let you say something, but I do want to, I need you to reserve. Remember, I'm the boss here. I'm the boss.
30 seconds.
I need you to reserve time to talk about the misnomer that is birthright citizenship.
I will deal with that. Takes about 14 seconds. But
No.
You know, the media are funny, aren't they? They lied about Joe Biden. They didn't care. They didn't have any press conferences. And now they're worried about a seat at the table. Worried about a seat for what? Let me tell you something in the media. Do we agree that Abraham Lincoln was a fantastic president?
Yes.
He was a great president. He shut down 200 newspapers. Donald Trump hasn't shut down anything. You're going broke because we, the people, are shutting it down. We're not subscribing. We're not buying your damn newspapers. We're not watching your TV shows. We support the First Amendment. We support free speech. We support freedom of the press. You don't.
How do you really feel about it, honey? No, just kidding. Okay, so now seriously, I think we need
She's pretty.
We need to talk about birthright citizenship because, again, this is a perfect example of what the left do. They take words like democracy and the Constitution, and then they exploit them because they don't really care about either of them. So they came up with this term, birthright citizenship, like anybody who comes here illegally and gives birth, that child, that baby, is an American citizen like magic. And that's not true. They cite the 14th Amendment. Do your Mark Levin thing where you give a little bit of a primer. No, because it's really important. It was so taken hostage, this paragraph in the 14th Amendment.
First of all, I wore the wrong socks, honey. I'm showing a little ankle up here. I'm not showing any more.
Okay, so I wasn't going to bring an intention to
All right, let me do it. I've been talking about this for 20 years. Read it yourself. Where's the phrase birthright citizenship in the Constitution? It's right next to abortion. It doesn't exist. So they have this invisible pen, where they write these things in. The 14th Amendment was passed like the 13th and the 15th because of slavery and the Civil War. And the country came together and said, we must, in the Constitution, fix this. We must give equal rights to human beings who have been held as slaves and are now free. We must give them all the protections and rights of a citizen of the United States. Jurisdiction thereof meant the black slaves who were now free were in the jurisdiction of the United States, and all the rights and privileges, including equality and all the rest, would apply to them. It was written by Republican senators. The 14th Amendment was based, this aspect of it, based on the 1866 Civil Rights Act, the first Civil Rights Act. Andrew Johnson, who was then president after the assassination of Lincoln, was a Democrat. He refused to sign that civil rights bill. So they overrode him and they said, we need to enshrine this in the Constitution of the United States. That provision applied to black people who were freed from slavery and were still being abused in the old Confederacy. And that amendment was passed by 3/4 of the state legislatures, including southern states that were told, if you don't vote for this, you're not coming back into the Union. We know what they meant. The author of the 14th Amendment specifically rejected the idea of aliens, specifically. In fact, they rejected the idea of what they called Indians, because they had separate countries at the time, or at least it was viewed that way. So they were excluded, underscoring the fact that you had to be a United States citizen and understood to be. So people who write that, all of a sudden, now it's interpreted to mean, if you come into the United States illegally and you have a baby, that's a citizen, that baby? There is literally no language to back it up, no legislative history to back it up, no history whatsoever to back it up, and yet I suspect the courts are going to give the birthright citizenship crowd what they want. And they'll mention some 1898 decision involving a Chinese couple. Still didn't apply to illegal aliens. So illegal aliens have no constitutional basis, but I will just warn you about this. Hollywood John Roberts, that's what I call him because he's worried about the press. I don't think he, and I don't think his new best friend Barrett, will do the right thing. I think they'll join the three, I can't say women because she wouldn't say women. They won't join.
That's okay. You can say it. Go for it.
Two of the non-males and one of the males. I think that's a 5 that worries me. But just understand, your Constitution does not provide for birthright citizenship.
So I just want to add one little fine point because you said a lot. You said a lot there. You notice how it's the Republican Party that consistently has been the champion of equality and the rights of black people throughout history. Every
major civil rights bill, starting in 1866 through the 50s with Eisenhower, the 60s, the Republicans either wrote it, sponsored it, or they had supermajorities to get them passed. Never forget, the Democrat Party is the party of slavery, segregation, eugenics, Jim Crow. Now they're the party of Marxism, Islamism, and anti-constitutionalism. That's a fact.
And it was Woodrow Wilson who did what? He resegregated the military when he became president.
God bless you all. Our time is up. Be well.
We love you, CPAC.
And thank you, President Trump.
In a time when the very fabric of our nation seemed under siege, one organization was willing to fight for America's principles and defend our children's future.
Joining me now, Terry Schilling, president of the American Principles Project.
This is what happens when tolerance goes too far.
It's a bit shocking to hear Democrats talk about them losing the culture war. After all, they started it.
You're denying reality, and you're denying them the care that they need.
The only homicide on January 6th was the unlawful shooting death of Ashley Babbitt. This major new lawsuit that Judicial Watch filed, a $30 million wrongful death lawsuit against the United States government.
She was unarmed. There were no weapons visible. She was shot in the shoulder and killed by Lieutenant Byrd. He popped out and shot her dead. Ashley was shot in cold blood, and the rule of law requires justice for her.
Every institution today is under attack. The home, the church, the government. And many people are asking, what is the truth? Jesus Christ claimed the ultimate truth. Are you willing to face the truth?
Do you think the MK Ultra project ever actually ended?
The Central Intelligence Agency is actively involved in mind manipulation.
We all answer to one God and one Savior, and He's there to change your life for the better.
All right, America is back on track 2025, but next year, CPAC 2026 is going to be even bigger. Go get your tickets now. Go to cpac.org and join the movement.
As I think it was President Reagan said, we're from the government. We're here to help.
I think you all know that I've always felt the 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
We're from the government. We're here to help.
I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear.
President Trump is back in the White House.
Donald Trump won the presidency.
President Trump is back in the White House.
Is back in the White House.
Donald Trump has taken back America.
I actually started quite a while ago in CPAC, and I enjoyed it so much that I came back for a second one, then a third, then I said, what the hell, let's run for president. Matt said, it's like 5 years ago, 6 years ago. He says, you should run for politics. He's the one who said, you should run for the presidency of the United States.
It is my honor to introduce to CPAC 2017 our president, Donald Trump.
First of all, I want to thank Matt Schlapp and his very, very incredible wife and boss, Mercedes, who have been fantastic friends and supporters, and so great when I watch them on television defending me. Nobody has a chance. I love this place. Love you people. You never stop fighting for America, and I will never, ever stop fighting for you. We know that there are still more records to be shattered, new summits to be scaled, more triumphs to be realized, and more amazing history just waiting to be written. The American adventure has only just begun. God bless America, and we will see you. You never stop fighting for America, and I will never, ever stop fighting for you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome host of the PBD podcast, Patrick Bet David.
All right.
Good? Okay. I got the lunchtime slot, which means some of you are either eating or wanting to go eat, but I do have a message for you. How you doing? Yes, it's great to be with you. How many of you here watch or listen to the PBD podcast? I'm curious. Okay, it's a good amount. All right, so I got a simple message for you with the limited time that I have here for you. First of all, it's an honor to be here at CPAC. This is my first time being here. Chance to speak with Matt and Mercedes, incredible people. It's incredible to be around you, especially the fact that the person you wanted to win won in 2024, which is a very big deal. I got a question for you. Can you think about the 2 things tyrants fear? Let me ask the question one more time. What would you say are the 2 things tyrants running a country fear? What are the 2 things? First thing they fear is you and I having guns to protect ourselves. The second thing they fear is you and I having a megaphone to express ourselves. Now, I want you to think about this. In the last 3 weeks, I've interviewed 2 different people. One of the ones I had on the podcast 3 weeks ago, he flew in the entire time he was nervous. He was a former founder of the IRGC, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. He started the IRGC with Khomeini in 1979. 3 months after I was born, I was living in Iran, and I brought him on the podcast. For many years, we've been wanting to have this man to come on the podcast, but obviously he doesn't want to come because directly and indirectly, millions of people died because of this man. If you go on Google, you type in founder of IRGC, you'll see his name and Khomeini's name. I bring him on. It's a little bit uncomfortable. I say, so let me ask you a question. When you guys took over the revolution, the Shah is gone. That's the last time the Middle East was at peace. No issues. Iran gets along with Israel. No wars. Things are good. Then you come over. You take over Iran. Khomeini flies in. You fly in. What is the first thing you guys did? He says, our number one mission was to get out of people's hands. And I said, tell me why. He says, because we wanted to be safe. I said, safe from what? Well, we had to be careful because there was a lot of criminals. I said, citizens having guns are criminals. They're trying to protect themselves. So again, what do tyrants fear? First thing is what? Your guns, because you can protect yourself. 2 days ago, I got back from Brazil. We're flying out to Brazil to do a 3-hour interview with former President Jair Bolsonaro. How many of you guys love President Bolsonaro? So we're in Brazil. While we're about to go, they are briefing us on what to be prepared for before we go to Brazil. They say, number one, have an international lawyer ready in case something happens. Number two, make sure you have an armored truck. Number three, come with a good delegation. We went with 9 of us. And then we'll be escorting you all over the place. So we go and we experience everything. And then eventually the president comes. And the president sits there and we start conducting the interview. One of the most emotional interviews I've ever done. This man is crying, tears dropping on the table. I can't wait for the interview to come out this Wednesday. And I hear him speaking. About 15 minutes left for the interview to be done. Somebody comes in and is whispering in his ear. Boom. He swipes the hand. Interview ends, doing all the stuff that he's doing. He gets out. 1 hour later, alert on the phone. Jair Bolsonaro has been charged and is facing 38 years in prison. For what? There's a judge there in Brazil. His name is Alexandre de Moraes. Anybody knows who he is? Okay. If there is a picture for someone that looks like a tyrant, it is Alexandre de Moraes. This man is a tyrant at the highest level. And he is the second man, the second point that tyrants fear is freedom of speech. I'm talking to the former president. He's not comfortable talking about certain things, but he let everything loose. He knows you can't talk. They don't want you to talk over there. So you got guns, freedom of speech, and in the world, we have 195 countries, of which 193 have constitutions. Of the 193 that have constitutions, only one country gives you full-on freedom of speech with nothing about hate speech and Second Amendment. We're the only ones here that we have in America. Now, keep this in mind. Sometimes when we sit there, we hear about, next year's going to be United States birthday for 250 years. It's going to be amazing. We are one of the youngest countries in the world. It's awesome. Well, think about the oldest countries in the world. Iran, roughly 3300 BC. Egypt, 3100 BC. You got Assyria, you got Armenia, you got China, you got all these countries, right? Oldest. We are one of the youngest. But watch this here. Does anybody know what country has the oldest constitution in the world? What country has the oldest constitution in the world, including UK? We, the people, have the oldest constitution in the world. So now watch this. Some of you are clapping. You're like, I don't know what point he's trying to make here. I don't know where you're going with this. Let me give you some numbers here. Dominican Republic has changed their constitution 32 times. Venezuela 26 times. Haiti 24. Ecuador 20. Brazil's changed it 7 times in the last 100 years. While I'm there in Brazil, we're going to the airport. Our flight's at 4:30. We get there at 2 o'clock waiting. Our flight gets canceled. We have to redirect our flight. We go to Peru. And then from Peru, we fly out to Miami. And I'll never forget when we landed in Miami. It reminded me of back in July 15th of 89 when we're escaping Iran on a Lufthansa flight. And while we're going, Everybody's waiting for the one magical word from the flight attendant. Anybody knows what it is? It's very simple. You can officially order alcohol. We've crossed the border. And we're like, we're free. This is amazing. We are officially out of Iran, right? So we land in Miami. I'm like, oh my God, this kind of takes me back to that moment when we left, Iran and experiencing what freedom's like. Then we get down here and I'm sitting and I'm talking to all these different senators and congressmen in Brazil. And here's a number I noticed. I want to kind of take it back because it's very important for us to be thinking about. In Brazil, they have 11 Supreme Court justices, of which only 2 are conservative. In Brazil, they have 81 senators, of which only 22 are conservatives. In Brazil, they have 513 congressmen and women, of which only 130 are conservatives. Let me just kind of take back a little bit and talk to you guys about maybe possibly the greatest accomplishment any president's ever done. If the Supreme Court justice was the other way around, 6-3, and when they said Colorado wants to remove the president off the ballot, and they would have succeeded, Kamala Harris would have been your president today. I understand. I'm with you. But I want you to think about why this is so important. For 25 years of my life, I was an atheist. When you live in Iran, my mother's Armenian, her last name's Bogosian, my dad's Assyrian, Bet David. I'm living in Iran. We're a Christian family trying to make it work. We're going to school, you're going to church, kind of keep it quiet. And you dream about one day coming here. You're like, oh my God, I can't wait to one day come to America. It's going to be such a great deal to come to America. I'm sitting there kind of thinking to myself about all this stuff with Iran. And hey, the Congress, the Senate, all this stuff. You bring it to today. This man flips 3 Supreme Court justices. He doesn't do that. Kamala gets in. They would have done everything in their power they could have to prevent the president from speaking. They try to silence him. They took him all the social media sites. There's a lot of people that want to be friends with him today. Same people that silenced him. They said you can't use social media. Got off. Then you go from there, you dream about coming to America, and you sit there, you think about it, you say, oh my God, I cannot even believe the fact that I'm living in a country like this where you and I, as an atheist, you're like, maybe God this, I don't know about this. People are dying in Iran. I'm in a refugee camp in Germany for a year and a half. You come to the States, I'm a regular guy going to school. Then all of a sudden I join the Army. I go to the 101st Airborne Division Air Assault. I'm in the Army. I'm in my uniform. Quite honestly, I joined at first for GI Bill, and I'm standing there waiting. We're at a Labor Day, a Memorial Day, and I see one of my chief warrant officers on this side in tears. I see another colonel over here in tears. I see a sergeant first class on this side in tears. I'm like, why are these guys crying? Why are they crying? And if we go into the auditorium, they say, there's a movie coming out about your unit. You guys going to get a chance to watch it before the world sees it. What's the movie? Saving Private Ryan. I watched this movie at the end. I'm like, I am so proud to be an American. I am so proud to be part of the 101st Airborne Division. I am so proud to be living here. So now watch. While I'm in the Army, because of my PT score, I was able to go hang out at this one camp for 2 days where we could play pool, jump in a lake, and all this stuff. This man hands me a Bible. I'm like, sir, I'm the wrong guy to give you a Bible. He says, my parents gifted me this Bible December 24th of 1974. I think you need it more than I do. I said, I'm telling you, it's not, you don't want to give it to me. I'm the wrong guy. He gives it to me. I start praying 3 times a day. Long story short, 25 years old, life changes, God's in my life. Everything from there has been revolutionary. It doesn't make sense to me. It's a miracle. Here's what it made me think about. How many of you remember the last time you had one of those nights where you pray for an hour and you're on your knees and nobody sees you? Who knows what I'm talking about? Anybody's ever done that before? By the way, for some of you that are devout Christians, maybe it's a normal Tuesday for you. But for those of you guys that just kind of go to church once in a while, you've only done that 3 or 4 or 5 times in your life. Does anybody relate where you don't do that often? What were you praying about in June of 2024? What were you praying about when you're sitting there? What were we thinking about? What was going on? What were the issues? Everything we're watching, what's going to be taking place? And then you mean to tell me the president is a one look away from this being assassinated, and he lives, and all these miracles happen? Flips 1 seat, Trump flips 3 seats in 1 term. You don't think God's hands on America again? By the way, the reason why I'm sharing this with you is sometimes when we start winning, and we start making money and we start driving the nice cars and our candidate wins and we're like, yay, it's great and it's awesome, our paranoia goes away. Let me just prepare you for something. We got to stay paranoid. We got to stay optimistic. They're plotting their moves behind closed doors while you and I are here at this event. We got to keep recruiting the next Bobby Kennedys, the next Tulsi Gabbers, the next Elon Musk, the next Joe Rogans, the next anybody. We got to recruit them over with common sense, with values, with the way we treat them. And if we do that, the future of America will look bright like never before. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate you. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome U.S. Secretary of the Interior, Doug Burgum.
Good afternoon, CPAC. So great to be with you. We are gathered here today at a historic time. And in a few hours, you're going to have an opportunity to hear from a very historic president. Here's a name you probably haven't heard of. Buddy Melgus, Olympic gold medal sailor from Zenda, Wisconsin. Grew up on a small, teeny little lake in Wisconsin. How did a kid from a small little lake in Wisconsin go on to become an Olympic sailor? He became an Olympic gold medal sailor because he understood you never have to recover from a great start. So I've got a few questions for you. In our entire U.S. history, which president has been off to the greatest start in history? Yes, okay, I can ask that a different way. Which president in American history has had the most impact in their first 33 days? Trump. And of course, we know the answer to this one. Which president right now, every hour, every day, is making America great again? There you go. I want to say thank you all for being here. This is such an important group. You are the difference makers. CPAC was the group that believed in President Trump when others didn't. You stayed with him. You worked so hard for all these years. And you were working because you supported President Trump, but you were working because you cared deeply about America. You wanted America to be better. You knew that America could reach its full potential. And now that is happening every single day, and it started here with you. Thank you, CPAC, for everything that you've done. Yes, President Trump has got a very clear and a very powerful vision on ways to make America great again. And at the center of that is energy dominance. He knows that energy dominance, when the U.S. is energy dominance, it's going to bring down inflation because energy is a component of every single product that we buy, every piece of food you eat, every vehicle you drive. He also knows that when we have energy to sell to our friends and allies, it's going to end our trade deficits. He knows it's going to create great American jobs. And he also knows that when we have energy to sell to our allies, it's going to end the wars abroad. And he is someone who wants to stop the killing. He wants to end wars. And President Trump, I believe, for that work, is going to win the Nobel Peace Prize. And this is a group that can help that happen for him. Yes, President Trump knows better than anyone that energy dominance is the foundation for American prosperity, for affordability and world peace. The Biden administration, wow, what a mess that we've inherited. The Biden administration, at the core of everything they're doing, we're beholden to a group of climate extremists. And when those climate extremists got the Biden administration to declare war on U.S. energy, and when they declared war on U.S. energy, it didn't reduce demand. It just shifted the supply to our adversaries across the world, to places like Iran, who who sold hundreds of billions of dollars of energy through ghost ships and front companies to fund 24 terror groups against us. But President Trump wants that to stop. And he's got full maximum pressure against Iran. And he'll do what he did in his first term, which is financially he'll bring that country, or the Ayatollahs, not the country, but the Ayatollahs to their knees. But back home, the climate extremists that wanted it to shut down U.S. energy, what did they do to Americans? They raised the price of everything. Electricity prices 30% higher under the Biden administration. Some of you, if you live in the Northeast, you're going to be staring at 15 to 17 to 20% increases again this summer. This is all what we've inherited. And when we have high energy costs, that hurts our economy and we deindustrialize. And that's why President Trump on day one declared a national energy emergency. It wasn't just about price at the pump. He understood the mess that Biden left us, and that's why he declared that energy emergency. And part of that solution, last Friday, he created the National Energy Dominance Council. He asked me to chair it. He asked Chris Wright to be the vice chair. And with that, with the work that we're going to be doing, it covers everything. It covers electricity, it covers oil and gas, it covers biofuels, it covers export, it covers exploration, all the things that we need to do to have our country become an energy powerhouse. But let's just talk a little bit about one of the things that were left, and that's the energy emergency, and that is our electrical grid in this country is absolutely in danger. The climate extremists worshiped an ideology that defied physics, economics, and common sense. They believed that that was the existential threat. I will tell you that there's two existential threats that this administration believes in. One was existential threat was Iran getting a nuclear weapon. That would change the world, and this administration, working with our allies, is going to make sure that doesn't happen. And the second thing is, the second existential threat is losing the artificial intelligence arms race to China. This country has shut down more electricity than China has opened in the last 12 months. And we need electricity because electricity drives AI data centers, and AI data centers manufacture intelligence. And when we manufacture intelligence, it's going to change every job, every company, every industry. It's going to make the federal government more productive. But no, what did the Biden administration do? They focused on highly subsidized, unreliable, unaffordable, and weather-dependent sources of energy. We all know you don't have to have a PhD to know that the sun doesn't shine 24 hours a day and the wind doesn't blow 365 days a year. And yet the Biden administration was trying to convince Americans that we could run a full-time society on part-time, intermittent, and expensive power. They pushed a Green New Deal that was a lot more like a Green New Steel because it was stealing your taxpayer dollars at the same time, raising the price of electricity for all of you, raising the price of food in this country, and jeopardizing our grid. We have today, for the first time, I was in tech for 30 years before I ever ran for office. We never used more than 1% of the nation's electricity in the whole technology sector. But now with AI coming, the demand is increasing, and that's real demand with real value, not artificial demand where we say we're going to stop driving internal combustion vehicles in favor of an EV. We're going to subsidize those EVs at 15 times anything we've ever done before, and then we're going to buy our batteries from China, who control 85% of the rare earth minerals. The whole plan was crazy. But what do we have right now under President Trump? President Trump knows that we weren't in some kind of mythical energy transition. He knows that we've got to have energy addition. He also knows, because if anybody has studied Energy 101, you'd know that any quote transition would fail because only one time in all of human history, have humans ever transitioned off a source of energy. It was in the 1880s. Anybody know what that was in the 1800s when we transitioned off energy? Whale oil. I heard somebody knew the answer. Yes, we transitioned off of whale oil. Whale oil became very popular because it was cleaner, but then along comes oil. And oil we could refine into kerosene, and kerosene was better than whale oil. And so who knew, but you're hearing it here at CPAC, that it was over 150 years ago, fossil fuels saved the whales. And I think we've got some T-shirt merch experts here in this room, and I just think that could make a great slogan on a T-shirt, by the way. But President Trump's got a plan for energy dominance that's going to help drive us forward. All of you know that we've got $36.5 trillion of debt because we hear it over and over again. But has anybody ever come on this stage and told you how much America's assets are? No, because nobody knows what they are. And the Biden administration is playing hide the ball. But in the Trump administration, we're going to build that balance sheet. And we have trillions and trillions of dollars worth of natural resources. And we're going to make sure that we understand that our assets far exceed the debt that we have. But before Joe Biden left office, one of the things that he did was he took 625 million acres of offshore potential, trillions of dollars of revenue potential for you, your kids, and your grandkids, and with a stroke of a pen said, we're never going to develop that. Never. It's off the table. I got it. You can boo for that if you want to, but that's literally 1/3 of the lower 48 here. He was trying to rob us of that. But he's robbing us of those revenues and also of the American dream. But President Trump got into office, and with an executive order, he reversed that ban. That 625 million acres is back on our balance sheet, including some of those acres are where? They're in the Gulf of America. One of the other falsehoods is that somehow that those climate extremists cared more about the environment than any of us in this room. And I know how deeply this group cares, and I know the people in my home state, the farmers and ranchers, 4th and 5th generation, they live on the land, they care about the soil health, they care about the water, they care about the air, and that's why in North Dakota, we had some of the cleanest air and water in the country, and we were an energy powerhouse. We can do both of these things in our country. Because when you shut down U.S. energy and you push that supply overseas, you push it to places that use child labor, that don't do reclamation. They don't have any kind of regulatory environment like we have. And so it's cleaner. If you care about the environment, you want every drop of energy, every electron to be produced in the United States. That's the way to save the planet. And the Biden administration, they sanctioned Alaska 68 times with executive orders. 68 times Joe Biden issued orders that tried to shut down energy development in Alaska. They sanctioned Alaska more than they did Iran, if you can believe it. But those days are over. One of the other executive orders that President Trump signed is one not just unleashing American energy, but unleashing Alaska's potential. And when we do that, we have an opportunity to sell energy to Japan, South Korea, the Philippines, our allies in the Pacific, who we need more than ever because of the growing threat of China. So let me ask you, as we close out here today, when we talk about being energy dominant, we know that one thing that President likes to say, and I'm sure you'll hear it to say, which he wants us to drill, baby, drill, and we're going to do that. But the U.S. Geologic Survey, which is part of Interior, we've got a job to actually go out and map those resources to find out how many trillions or hundreds of trillions of dollars of assets belong to all of you, the public. So we're going to map, baby, map. And then we're also going to mine, baby, mine. We're going to mine, baby, mine, because we've got to get critical minerals developed back in our country. We can't be dependent. We're buying uranium from Russia for our nuclear plants. We have to be able to have those supply chains be right here. So we're going to do all of that. And when we do all of that, we're going to be able to build, baby, build. President Trump is the greatest economic developer that's ever existed. Nobody sells America better than he does. Chris Wright, my partner in this from the Department of Energy, he and I were asked by President Trump to join him when he was meeting with the Prime Minister of India and the Prime Minister of Japan. In those meetings, President Trump said to those leaders, you've got a deficit, a trade deficit with our country. We think you should solve that. What would you like to buy from us? Perhaps some energy? 30 years ago, he wrote the international bestseller, The Art of the Deal, President Trump did. I've seen him in action. Right now, every day, he's writing the sequel to that of The Art of the Deal in real time. Yes, he is, but he's dealing with the world leaders. They're coming to him, and they want to buy American, and we want to build American. And we know that President Trump is not only making America strong again, he's going to make America affordable again. He's helping with your help. He's fighting for the agenda. And you know what he's going to do? He's going to make America great again. Thank you, CPAC.